Hello, everyone. Today it is the 17th of October. It's Friday. It's 2025. I'm Carey Holzman, and welcome into our Friday show. Usually on a Friday show, I'll have some expensive piece of something here or something different and unique, and things have gotten really, really slow. So I do have some stuff coming in. It's not here yet. And so today I thought we'll just kind of interact with each other. We'll talk about what's on your mind along with what's in the tech news. And mostly try and calm everybody down. It seems to be a common theme where people panic over things that aren't yet in existence. I'm seeing this more and more in society where people are reacting to something that's not there. But it's coming, they insist. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But until it does, actually exist, I don't really have any tips for you to alter its existence. But with that being said, welcome into everybody, and a shout out to our good friend Buster. Peter Laycock sends a super chat as an Amazon gift card. As always, thank you, our friend Buster there in the chat room joining us from Scotland. And let me say hello to everybody here. Mortant says hello. John says hello. There's Scott and Tony Aindow saying hello. Mark Baggett joins us. Spider-Man joins us. John Paul Bacon and Lana Dro saying hello, along with Eddie Casanova and Mark Gaines. Richard DeFries and Jim Kenny. David Graham and Michael Lavelle all here in the chat. There's Ben Laird also joining us from Scotland. And Patrick Manny says hello. Gary Bickle saying hello. There's Todd Wickham. Our friend Buster just gave out 5 memberships. That's $50 worth of memberships, $10 each to 5 people. So welcome into membership, Stephen Culver. He received a gift of membership from Peter Laycock, or as we call him, Buster. Caffeinator as well. David's Drones Adventures received a gift membership from Peter. And Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To just got a gift membership from our friend Buster there. Welcome into all the new members. And somebody named HPAD is the 5th of the 5 free memberships. So that's a month of free membership for you guys to check out our archives, to join us on our Mondays members only live videos, and to get priority responses to your email questions. Now, if you want to email us, I'm going to put that email address on the screen right there, and members get priority response. And we're happy to do what we can to help you with any questions or concerns that you have, or troubles you're trying to resolve with your computer or internet, etc. Also, a shout out to our good friends over at URCDKeys. I'm so happy to bring them back and be able to continue to offer the discount on the legitimate Windows and Office license keys that are supported by them for 6 months. It's not a roll of the dice that you just hope your product key is going to work. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of key sellers online. It's a lot of them will just take your money and they won't communicate with you. And if the product key works, it works. And if it doesn't, too bad. This is not what URCDKeys is, or never has been for that matter. These are the keys, the source of product keys that I use when purchasing for my clients. So they have to have legitimacy. I can't just take a risk and buy from some online seller. I have to know that the keys I'm getting are going to work, and if they don't work for any reason, I need somebody to talk to immediately, because my customers are not going to say, oh, it's okay, Carey, don't worry about it. No, they're definitely going to worry about it. So, all right, so with that, let me bring back over here camera 1. I want you to know that all the links for well, pretty much anything we discussed today, but since we just mentioned the URCD keys, those links and discount codes are in our video notes below this video. Use the coupon code Carey for 25% off. If you run into any issues, you probably won't, but let's just assume the worst, and you run into an issue, you let them know, they'll fix it. Let's assume the worst again. What if they don't fix it? You reach out to me personally. One way or another, the buck stops with me. So obviously, if I'm putting my name behind something like that, behind anything I'm promoting here, which, if you know me, that's not many things. It has to fit through a very fine filter. And if they're not fitting through the filter anymore, we stop recommending them. Believe me, I got other things to do. than fix other people's issues for free. But I feel so strongly with the legitimacy and the customer service and the value being offered by URCD keys. I not only use it myself, I'm willing to put my own money behind it so that you guys have peace of mind. You definitely will not be getting ripped off or scammed in any way with URCD keys. I personally financially back that up myself. And, you know, whatever that's worth, if you prefer that you can get a better deal somewhere else, but you're going to roll the dice and hope it works, you know, just understand the decision you're making and accept the consequences you get and hope it all works out. But with URCD keys, there's no hope. It's guaranteed it's going to work out. All right. So with that, let me look through the chat here real quick. Charles Eslick joins us along with Mick Woods, Elijah 52 Dickens. And I think, oh, there's Marsman 50. Now I think I've got everybody there. Andy Kane says, I'll have to email you regarding VIP-URCD keys. Please do, Andy. Please do. Dazzle555 joins us and says hello. And yeah, if you want to share a story with us regarding you know, any products we review here, or especially anything we're promoting, because again, we don't promote that much here because there's not much that lives up to the standards that I have. So it's pretty rare that some companies do meet that, and URCD keys is one of them. Mini Swarm is another one. There's a handful. A lot of companies would like us to promote them, but they don't meet our requirements, and we tell them if you meet these requirements, we'll be happy to reconsider. And we've had some responses that are ridiculous where they've literally met the bare minimum requirements, and I'm like, okay, that's that was cute. Now do it for real, you know. I don't know how much of it's a cultural issue between ourselves and people in East Asia. That's where a lot of the products and stuff comes from these days. Or if they're just messing with me. But when I feel very confident about it, and you should have a good experience, and feel free to email us and tell us about that good experience. You don't have to just tell us about a bad experience, but there's definitely a reason to share a bad experience, because if we get a lot of those, we're going to reconsider who we're promoting if they're no longer meeting the requirements. So just so you know, I have no idea if Andy Kane is going to email us a positive story or negative story, but if it's negative, we will make it right. And Andy W in the chat mentions that he got a Nemo laptop. He had a problem with it, and he called them, and they sent him a new one to replace the one he bought. And he only talked about this a couple days ago. He's already got his replacement. He says it's working great, and he says great Nemo support. Nemo's another company, as we mentioned, that, you know, they're not 100% perfect in the sense that I don't like the installation of 8 different language versions of Office 365. In fact, I don't like Office 365 being pre-installed at all. I think there's a language barrier issue here as well, because, or rather not a language barrier, but I think a fundamental misunderstanding. And that is, Nemo will tell you their customers want that Office 365 installed. That's why they do it, and they ship all over the world, so they never quite know if this laptop's going to go to which country, so they just put them all on there. What customers want is a paid, licensed version of Office. They don't want the free trial that you have to pay for. They don't want that. You've misunderstood your customers, Nemo. They want you to pay for a fully licensed version of Office to come with that laptop. When they say they want Office included, they don't mean they want 8 different versions in 8 different languages that they have to pay for. They want it already paid for and installed in their language, period. There's very few manufacturers that offer that. And if they do offer it, it does add quite a bit of money. So I think Nemo has just a fundamental misunderstanding of their customers' requests. And furthermore, with the latest version of Windows 11, actually with all versions of Windows 11, you get the Office 365 installer based on the language of your OS that you will download and install at the time that you choose to, versus taking up all this hard drive space in multiple languages that most customers won't even know is there and won't know how to remove, because even the uninstall is in another language. So it's very, very disappointing to me that Nemo continues to make that decision when all their other decisions are fantastic. Like, I think they're doing everything right, everything, and this might be considered a nitpick, but oh, if they could just do what everybody else does and just put Windows on it and leave it alone, I'd be hard pressed to find anything to complain about. So, as far as things go for complaining, that's a pretty minor complaint. So I have no problem recommending them. They're great values, a solid product, easy to work on, very affordable, great support, great return period, great warranty. They just need to change that software installer. In my opinion, if I was running the company, that change would have already happened. So I hope to get heard on behalf of any customer that buys from them, because I think they had completely misunderstood what the customers were wanting. Maybe I'm wrong, but my experience in selling computers, I have a few years under my belt. Customers always want that Microsoft Office installed, and when they mean installed, they mean activated. All right. Andy says that Nemo sent him the laptop the same day he sent the broken one in. So they never even received the broken one. They just got a tracking number that shows it was sent to them, and that was good enough for them, just like it is with Amazon. Amazon will often send you a refund as you're walking out of the Kohl's or Whole Foods or UPS store when you're dropping off a return from Amazon. It's not uncommon within minutes that your refund is issued, because the carrier will report that they received that electronically. They scan the barcode, or the QR code as it is, and then that goes right to Amazon's automated system. It says, okay, that's been received by the shipper. We can go ahead and issue the refund, because everything else now is, if we don't get it, it's because the shipper, it's an issue with the shipper, not the customer. Customer returned it. So it sounds like Nemo's doing something similar, which is fantastic, because people need their computers. There should be an urgency put on it. It's a shame you even had the problem to begin with. So in the sense of customer service, that's the least they can do to make sure that they make the best of a bad situation, instead of what other companies do is just make it worse. Oh, does that hurt? Does that open wound hurt you? Let me rub some salt in it, right? So I'm glad to hear that Nemo took care of you and they expedited that. Other companies will say, yeah, we'll get back to you, we'll send that out, and then it doesn't get sent out. So another thing to like about Nemo, which is way more serious of a potential issue than having 8 different versions of Office installed. But just that would make them just about perfect if they just get rid of that. At least to me. Lou Greeny is joining us. There's Mark Gaines saying hello here in the chat. If you're watching us live, you're going to see me referring to our chat room constantly. The chat room is open to anybody watching us live, and all you have to do is poke your head in there and say hello. You really don't have to do anything else, and just watch what happens. We have a wonderful and amazing community here, which you don't typically find on the internet, where everybody is supportive and kind to one another. If you feel like you're the kind of person that's kind and supportive to other people, please join us. If you feel like you're not kind and supportive to other people, please stay out of the chat room. It's funny to me. Who would choose to not? Oh, no, I'm not kind to other people. Okay, then you're not welcome. But everybody else is welcome in. Alaj Depej joins us now, member for 33 months, as he renews his membership for the 33rd month in a row. Thank you, Alaj. Robert Jones says hello. Fred NL says hello, joining us in the chat, along with 3D Everything. I'm going to look in the chat for any comments before I get started on my diatribes for today. Sam Van Thiel says, I image my machines with a fresh copy of Windows and Office 365 in one language for the customer that already has the MS 365 account. Yeah, but they ship worldwide, so it's a little bit more complex for them. Nothing like a sneeze on live video. All right, well, hopefully just the one. Dennis joins us here in the chat. Good to see you, Dennis. There's Bajan Guy saying hello. There's Larry, or LRCX, joining us here in the chat room. He says he bought a Microsoft 365 a month ago, and with Carey's suggestion, I was able to put it on my Osgay mini PC without any more cost. There you go. Neg Lakey says hello. Welcome in. Welcome in. All right, Windows 10 extended security updates. Some people are having some issues with regards to getting the enrollment done. And there are a number of fixes that are available. The latest one comes from Microsoft. If you actually go to the Microsoft Store, that's an icon on your computer, and do a search for the ESU, you'll see that there is a extended security updates app to download. That should automatically enter you into the trial version. And there's no telling how long the trial version is. As far as I can tell, they haven't announced it, but it will prompt you. The main thing is that you're getting signed up and enrolled in it, trial or otherwise. And that might also cure any other obstacles to getting enrolled. It's worth giving it a shot. And then just report back if you're still having trouble getting your extended security updates on Windows 10 enabled. If you wish to continue security updates from November till the next, when is that, October 13th. That gives you another 12 months basically to continue to procrastinate and avoid putting any effort forth that's required to switch to Windows 11. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is a pointless and futile exercise. You're going to do what you're going to do. It's a bad idea to procrastinate. It's not going to make anything any better. Avoiding any responsibilities to get online only affects you. It's your identity. It's your data. It's your decision to make. So if you want some help or you need some help on getting that enrolled, you're certainly welcome to send us an email and ask us for assistance, or join us over on our forums. That's at careyholzman.boards.net. You can ask the community there. Or while we're live, you can ask while we're live, and we'll do our best to guide you through it. There's about 6 different reasons why it may not install. However, if you're running the Enterprise Edition of Windows 10, you're wasting your time. That's for corporations that provide their own support. It will never ever work with ESU. Period. End of story. It's not even. Don't even bring it up. If you have Enterprise Edition at home and you're asking me for help, then you're a pirate. If you have ESU at home legitimately because your corporation sent you home with it, then you call your corporation's IT department. But if you have Home or Pro, we can help you. If you have Education Edition, Enterprise Edition, you have locked yourself out by having something you're not supposed to have. You're not breaking any laws, but you are restricting yourself to the freedoms that the rest of us have in doing so. And if you're okay with it, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if you want to run an Enterprise Edition in your home. You could go buy a school bus or a forklift and drive that back and forth to work too. There's nothing illegal about that. It's just impractical and unusual. But it's your freedom. Yeah. I have emails. All right, well, let's check the email. Mark Leibowitz said, I'm afraid to upgrade Windows 11 because you're afraid of change. Don't be. I upgraded our desktop earlier this week, and I'm still waiting for my wife to even notice. Mark Gaines says, Carey, I had to do some trouble solving on the Project Zero. I was getting a black screen when I tried to load games. Had to roll back the AMD graphics driver update to the previous one. Yeah, this is why I don't support gamers, you know. If the work I typically do involves a company going out of business, there's a lot of pressure and seriousness to getting that problem resolved. Yesterday, a client at a business called me, and they had a pretty unusual problem where it's the only client I have that does it, but they have the preview pane open on File Explorer. So if they just do a click on a PDF file or a document file, on the right side of the Windows Explorer, it shows what's inside the document without having to open it. And after the updates Tuesday, this is Windows 11 25H2, after those updates Tuesday, is that the 15th, I think, or the 14th, it said anytime that this customer clicks to look at the preview, it says this file may cause harm to your computer, and it will no longer display the preview. And they called me because they've been using their computer this way for many, many years. And they have thousands upon thousands of documents. So for example, their fax machine is effectively the office copy machine. So the phone is plugged in, the fax phone number is plugged in to the copy machine. Copy machine answers it, receives the fax, and then saves that on the Synology drive under a folder called fax scans. So every morning when this employee comes into the office, they check the fax scans folder to see what's come in. And if they just click on the preview and just read what's on that first page, they know which client folder this goes into, or if it's junk. It's fast. They can go click, look, click, look. Okay, well, so when file preview doesn't work, that means they have to physically double click on every single file and open it, which also, opens an opportunity for potential issues, not necessarily from fax, but this also includes Word documents and etc. So I took a look at it briefly and I said, well, I'm not sure what's going on. Let me look at it after hours when I'm not interrupting your work. In the meantime, just, go through the rest of today. And turns out, apparently the settings under intranet. So when you go to your control panel, click on Internet Options, and then I think it's under Security, you have 4 different areas there. One is Internet, one is intranet, that would be your internal network. So I click on intranet, I said add a safe site, and I just put the IP range 192.168.1.*, and that means all of that. Add it to the safe sites, preview started working again. But what I did before that was I went into the Adobe Acrobat program. They have the full paid Adobe Acrobat. And I told it to turn thumbnail view on because it wasn't turned on. And then you see it like change the install. And then I restart the computer, and then all the Adobe icons became black boxes with a little red A in the bottom right corner. That's not what it looked like before. So I undid that change and rebooted. It's still the same thing. So then I deleted all the temp files, and I'm glad I did. They had almost 15 gigs of temp files. I don't know how they built up so quickly. Rebooted, still no difference. The previews were fixed, but now they broke the icons. So now I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to get a call that the icons don't look right. And they do look terrible. Just the Adobe ones, by the way. And I'm just Googling, where else could an icon cache be or a thumbnail cache be for the desktop? And it showed in the temp folder, I can't remember the exact path, but there were, you show hidden files, and there were a bunch of icon cache files and thumbnail cache files. I just deleted them all because the Windows system will recreate them. That's how they existed. Customer didn't create these, the system created them. Deleted all of those, emptied the recycle bin, restarted again. Everything is perfect now. Now, it's the only computer in the office that was affected, so I'm not sure why, but I've documented the fix, so if we see it again, as Microsoft continues to tighten down security, You understand why Microsoft is doing this. They're not doing it to annoy you. They're trying to prevent you from having your identity stolen, or in this case, getting your computer infected. Because the files were located on the Synology instead of on the local drive, it said, hey, these are not on your local drive. These can cause harm in the preview window. If the files were local, in other words, I have all the employees save all the important data on the Synology. I don't back up their desktops, and they're instructed, don't save important things on your desktop. But sometimes they do work on files on their desktop, and when they're done, they copy it over to the NAS. I don't know why. And sure enough, I went in there and looked at some of their documents that were both PDF files and Word documents, and Preview was working fine. But look at the documents on the Synology. This file may cause harm to your computer, and it doesn't display it. And that local intranet, adding the IP address as a safe. I mean, I could have put the IP address to the NAS in there, but it's DHCP, it could change. So I'll just grab the whole range, and seems to have fixed it. And that's the only customer I had call me for that. I've had it no other. Actually, I don't know any other customers that use a preview pane. And that customer's been using a preview pane for as long as I've been working for. So we just never really had that problem before. Let me take a look at the email. Oh, James Carter sends an Amazon gift card. Thank you, James. Shout out to James Carter. And of course, as I previously mentioned, our friend Buster, Peter Lightcott. Right. So those aren't the most exciting problems I have to fix, but they're, they affect productivity. When someone says I can't get my game to work, like, I could care less. When someone says my graphics card needs to be fixed, I don't want to fix graphics cards for a living. I mean, I just have fun with your game and consider making the game run as a game before the game, because it's not work. It's not like, hey, I got to get this done. Enjoy your game and enjoy the game of getting the game to work. That's all part of the gaming experience on a PC. If you don't want that experience, then get yourself a console. Get an Xbox, get a PlayStation. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear the amount of problems that come in from non-work related voluntary recreational stuff, from gaming to RGB and unnecessary liquid coolers, unnecessary fans, all the stuff that's unnecessary. When people call with an issue, if they're clients, it's like going to the emergency room because you have a splinter. We'll take care of you, but there's people that are needing help with more serious issues, more dire. So we're going to get to them first. And depending on how many of them are and how long it takes us to get through, how many more come in, once we get through all that, then we'll help you. And then you can decide if you want to sit in the waiting room for hours or just take care of it yourself. That's the triage of what I do. And I have to tell you, the worst part, at least from my experience, is that the people that are the gamers will call the most often for help. They will pay the least or complain about how much it's costing. And I don't have any of this experience with businesses. I go in, they don't call me for no reason. When I send them a bill, they pay it. And they call more frequently than consumers. So not to put down the gamers, but unfortunately that's a hobby. Have fun with it, and that's part of the hobby. And you should expect that. That's all I'm trying to say. That comes along with the territory. Every game is different. So because you had a driver that wasn't working with that game didn't mean that driver didn't work with literally every game on the planet except the one you wanted to play. That's Murphy's Law. Eduardo says, hello, welcome in, Eduardo. There's John Lewis from Brazil. Tony Crossan says, there goes my question. Oh, did I miss a question? Don't get me wrong. If you have gaming related questions, feel free to ask them. Although I myself, I'm not going to stop the bus as though something really important is happening, I will try to provide a suggestion. And we have many people in our chat room and in our community that are a lot more educated and experienced in that, who would also be more than happy to give you some suggestions that'll probably be much more useful than my own. And it may be something they themselves have experienced. Whereas me personally, I can guarantee you, I haven't experienced it because I don't have time to play the games. And I certainly don't have time to fix the games. And I don't want to be fixing a game when I spend all day fixing problems. I don't want to fix another one for fun. So I'm not saying you shouldn't ask, but I'm saying, when you ask in the chat room, do watch our responses. Watch for your response. Watch for a response to you from within our community, because we have a lot of very knowledgeable, very helpful people there. Don't just look to me. No man is an island. So we're all here helping each other out. Tony says he's got an RX 7900 XT that boots and then freezes on the desktop. So the question I would have for you, Tony, is this a computer you built? Is this a new computer? Has it ever worked before? And if so, when did it start issuing this behavior? And what operating system? What's the computer? What is it? If you built it or you bought it pre-built, what's the processor? What's the RAM? What's the motherboard? What's the power supply? Eric says gamers are the worst customers with nonsense about replacing thermal paste because they saw some dude on YouTube save a couple of degrees. Look, if they want to do that themselves, I'm not going to tell them what they can or can't do with their own stuff. But I do think it's a real crime. It's unjust that people are encouraged to take apart something that's working under the guise that it'll make it better without really understanding the consequences if it doesn't work out. And then that can often lead to a pretty pissed off customer who's not necessarily mad at you, but they're mad at the situation because, this was supposed to be really easy to do this. And it turns out now the computer doesn't work anymore. So I'll usually ask them, why did you do that? Well, I wanted it to run cooler. Well, was it running hot? Well, it was running, 70 degrees. Well, 70 is within its operational range. It's not going to run any better at 65. Why would you do that? Well, it looked like it was easy to do. It seemed like a good idea. But so that 70 degrees, what was the issue you were trying to resolve? Was a game not working? Was there, I'm trying to get to why did you do it? And more times than not, the question is just thought it would be a good idea. And I'll just confirm. So you had no problems with the computer, no issues at all. You decided to take it apart to fix something that wasn't broken in order to make it better, and now it doesn't work at all, and you're calling me to fix it? Yep, it's okay. I'm just wanting to understand how we got here. Now I know. It's fine. It's fine. Mark Gaines sent a gift membership, and Mick Woods received that gift membership from Mark Gaines. Thank you, Mark. Luke Greeny also sent a gift membership, and Dusty Carlisle just received that gift membership. Check that out. Remember when I talked about what a kind and supportive community we have here? They just decided to do that all by themselves. I had nothing to do with it. So right on. Thanks, you guys. And welcome into our new members. Remember, membership does give you the ability to look back through 14 years of videos here. No, 16, 17. 17 years of videos here on YouTube. I keep the latest 12 months available, and then after that, they go into the archive. There's a couple of reasons for this, and primarily it's because the average YouTube viewer, not you guys, but your average YouTube viewer has no idea. It never occurs to them if they're watching an old video. Somebody left a comment that said, hey, that Nemo laptop, I was going to order it, but the coupon code is no good, so I'm not going to order it. Well, you look at when I published this particular Nemo laptop, not the most recent one, but the one before that. That was 6 weeks ago. It was a promo code. How long do you think promo codes are good for? I don't think they had any idea they were watching a 6-week-old video. Some people will watch the playback of this live video and they think they're watching a live video instead of a recording of a live video. They can't tell the difference. It never occurs to them to look under the video to see if it says it's live. It never occurs to them to look at when the video was filmed and what day it is they're watching it. If I say this video is live on Monday and you're watching it on Thursday, it's pretty safe to assume you're watching a recording of a live video. But just your average YouTube viewer doesn't think that way. So in order to prevent this confusion, and also my videos are very much of the moment, right? So when I'm talking to you about things like the release of Windows 11 25H2, nobody's going back and watching the video on the release of Windows 11 24H2. Nobody cares. When I explain to you how to do the Windows 10 extended security updates, in a few months, nobody's going to care anymore. And certainly within 12 months, that video is completely useless. It no longer has any valid, useful information because too much time has gone by and it no longer applies. If I'm showing you how to put drivers onto Windows 7, all it does is confuse people who don't know what version of Windows they have. So the safest thing I can do is get those videos away from the general public after 12 months. And then this avoids people going, it didn't work, you know, or if I'm mentioning prices and people go, how did you get it at that price? Well, that's because you're watching a video from 4 years ago. You know, it is crazy the way people simply just mindlessly watch videos and don't make the least amount of effort to just look at the date. So the other thing is, of course, to add more benefit to membership, because we know our members are going to be not that kind of typical viewer, that they understand if they're going back into the archive or something, it's likely because they're doing something most people aren't doing. Maybe you're buying a used computer off eBay that I reviewed 4 years ago, and that review no longer is up publicly because you can't buy that computer. They don't make it anymore. And you're going on eBay and you're like, before I buy this used computer off eBay, let me see if Carey reviewed it. You can go through the archive and watch that review. But as you can imagine, your average viewer could care less. All it's going to do is confuse them. At the worst, they'll say, wow, I want to get one. Well, you're 4 years too late. They don't make it anymore. And then I get an email going, hey, I clicked on the link. It doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, that's because you're clicking on a link, you know, to MySpace or something. It's not there. So in any event, that's part of the reason we do that. And of course, membership also gives you priority access to us being Mara and myself, that if you do have a problem or a question, you send us an email and we respond right away. If you're a regular viewer, you can also email us and we'll get to it when we have time. If you're a member, we make the time. That's the difference. Again, we want to keep members coming back. We want to continue to offer something to them that we don't just give out to anybody. And we want to make sure that, you know, you're supporting us. We want to support you back. David Graham has a great suggestion regarding the video card. You can look for an RMA return from the manufacturer you bought it from to send it under warranty. Or at the very least, you could try uninstalling the graphics drivers using the DDU utility. Just Google DDU and that'll do a complete wipe of all the drivers, so you can start with a fresh, clean install after reboot of the latest drivers and see if that fixes the problem. That's a great suggestion. Mark Leibowitz said, I've seen exactly two instances in 15 years where replacing the thermal paste fixed a problem. Both were niche cases that involved real problems, including blue screens. General advice is just don't do it. Yeah, don't do it unless you're If I'm going to fix a problem, I have to understand what the problem is. So somebody says, we'll play this out. Carey, I need you to replace the thermal compound on my computer. Okay, why? Because my computer's running hot. How do you define hot? Oh, it's 70 degrees Celsius. Do you know what the maximum temperature of that CPU is? I don't know. Okay, it's on average they're 100 degrees Celsius. Unless you're getting close to 100 degrees Celsius, there's nothing to fix. But are you having a problem with the computer, and you think that problem is being caused by the temperature of the CPU? No. Well, I'll be honest with you. If you're not having a problem with the computer, and you want to have a problem with the computer, that's a good way to get one. If I were you, and it's your computer and it's your money, and I'm happy to do, if you want me to change the thermal paste, I will. But I'm a terrible businessman, and I will tell you, save your money. And when you have a symptom that you can describe to me, I'd be happy to find a resolution for it. I don't think a doctor is going to prescribe you medication for an ailment you don't have. Well, I just want to make sure I don't get it. Okay, but there's a million other ailments you can get. Why are we highlighting this specific one? Why does this ailment concern you? What about the millions of other ailments that you are susceptible to? I don't know. Okay. So what I would prefer we do is wait until you actually have a symptom, and then let me do my job to determine what the proper course of action is, rather than just assuming you need new thermal paste. Let me make that assumption for you. But first, before I can even do that, I have to understand what it is you're trying to resolve. What is the problem you are experiencing that led you to this conclusion that you need thermal paste? I'm not having any problems. Well, and I'm going to suggest you leave it alone unless you want some problems, and save your money and stop being so brainwashed or, manipulated by content creators and Redditors. You do it if you want to. I'm not telling you not to. If I were you, I wouldn't do it. And if you want to pay me to do it, I will do it. But I'm telling you, it's a waste of time and a waste of money. And I say, what do you want to do? And 9 times out of 10, they say, I just didn't think of it that way. Appreciate your honesty. I say, yeah, when you have an actual issue, please call me back. If you know anybody that has any actual computer problems, please refer me to them. I would appreciate it. I had a customer whose heatsink was completely off, wasn't making contact with the CPU. And the reason I was servicing the client's computer is they were running out of drive space. This is back when, it was like $200 for a 128 gig SSD. And this was an office, a dentist office. And they weren't using much space, but before you know it, they started getting some blue screens, and they called me, and they came out and they looked at it, and I said, well, your drive is almost full. But the drive technology was advancing so quickly, I was like, we can get a 256 gig drive for the same price we paid for this one a year ago. Do you want me to replace it? And I can just clone everything over. And they said, yeah. I said, okay, I'll come back when I have the drive. Came back a couple days later, opened the computer up to clone and replace the drive, only to see the heatsink is only half on. This is an Intel i5. And I said, have you noticed the computer's getting slower or anything like that? No. Interesting. And all the blue screens they're getting, they're all because of a lack of drive space, have nothing to do with heat. So I don't know how long it had been this way, but it had never been a problem. An Intel i5 was running basically without a heatsink, and the customer had no idea. So when I changed out the drive, I cloned it and changed it. I inspected the drive, everything was good. I just popped it right back in, did not need to replace any thermal compound. Just pushed the pins back down, made sure it was locked in. Never worked on that computer again. And then I had another client who had somebody come into the office and steal the fans off of the Noctua coolers on brand new computers I built. And I said to the owner, I go, where's the fans? He goes, what do you mean? I go, I sold these to you with fans not 6 months ago. He says, I don't know. I go, well, who in your office would open a brand new computer, and of all the things to steal, they stole a 120 millimeter, or yes, I think it was a 120 millimeter fan. I don't know anybody in my office that would do that. You have cleaning people. That's a weird thing to steal. It didn't fall out. It's just not there. It's been disconnected and removed. And this was on 2 of the machines I had built just a few months earlier. I don't know. I said, here's the problem. These Noctua fans that they're using on their coolers, the ones you have, we cannot just get those fans. The little fan buckles, they only come with the heatsink. The heat sinks are $120 a piece. So you're basically going to pay $120 so I can buy a brand new heat sink from Noctua, take the fan out and stick it on there. Or we could spend $40 and replace it with a Scythe Mugen fan. And this guy makes a lot of money. He said, look, what's easier for you? I said, what's easier for me is to slap a fan on it. But unfortunately, those fan buckles are proprietary. They don't sell them, so I don't know what else to do. He goes, just buy the new heat sinks, take the fans out, and throw the heat sinks away. Brand new in a box, just toss them or keep them, do whatever you want. What's it going to cost me, $250 to get them both done? I said, yep. Okay, I'm authorizing you to do it. Okay. Now I can't help but wonder, did somebody go back in and take those fans back? I mean, the things that go on at client offices, and the clients often, they're just, I don't have anybody that would do that. Do you have any cameras in your office? No. Well, it's a shame, because if you had cameras in your office, we could have, seen who did it. Well, I had some people working for me, but they don't work for me anymore. Maybe it was one of them. I go, maybe it's your own child. Maybe it's the least person you expect. I don't think so. I said, okay, well, I mean, it's just $250 for 2 $10 fans. But if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's just, what's done is done. Let's just move on. Okay. That's very bizarre. $110JS says, I don't change the CPU thermal paste, but I think clearing out the dust inside every 6 to 12 months is beneficial. Absolutely, I could not agree with you more. Mark Leibowitz said it is 74 degrees Fahrenheit and partly sunny in Chicago. Sounds like a good time to be in Chicago right now. Actually, it's not too bad here in Phoenix today because of the rain we've had recently. The weather's cooled down, and it cooled down fast. We were at 100 degrees not, 10 days ago. And today we're at, right now, I think it says 87. I mean, that's in Phoenix. By the way, 87 feels a lot cooler than it sounds in Phoenix because we don't have that humidity usually. Oh, 80. It's 80 degrees, 80 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny today, right now, at 10 to 2 in the afternoon. This is, I'd say fall and spring are my favorite times of year. And I don't know which one I like better. Fall is fantastic because it's a relief after the summer. Spring is almost a little disappointing because it doesn't feel like winter lasted long enough. But this is a unique Phoenix perspective. But I'll take either one over winter or summer. Just give me the spring and the fall all year. Alternate them. I'll be good with that. Mark Leibowitz said, He had a wild experience yesterday. Client brought his 10-year-old daughter in with his broken laptop. Turns out his wife is a woman I'd known when she was about the same age as the daughter. Yes, I'm old. Small world, isn't it? He says, as soon as I realized who the mom was, it struck me just how much this little girl was like her mom. Very active, with a keen wit, very intelligent and attentive to detail. I was showing her father a mini PC, so I handed it to her and I let her plug it in on the bench so she could see it work. And Windows Update immediately reported updates were missing. So I looked at that, and well, this was the first time I'd ever seen a computer spontaneously receive Windows 11 25H2 via Windows Update, and it updated successfully in a record time. I still want to know what they feed her. Johnny Weld says it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit there in West Palm Beach, Florida. Yeah, same temperature there as here. But I'm telling you, 80 degrees in West Palm Beach feels very different than 80 degrees in Phoenix. 80 degrees in West Palm Beach is going to be a little warmer. It's going to feel warmer than 80 degrees in Phoenix. We can put the air conditioning down to, let's say, 78 degrees Fahrenheit in the dead of summer. And it's very comfortable. But 78 degrees in Michigan, your AC is not down low enough. It's uncomfortable. It's just interesting how the humidity and elevation play a role in or comfort with, defining what a comfortable temperature is. Kind of depends on where you are. And of course, it varies by individual. But overall, most people would agree that when you hear it's 122 degrees in Phoenix and you think, oh my gosh, how can anybody survive that? It's not as bad as if it were 122 degrees in Florida. If that's any consolation. Sam Bantil said, Windows 11 in-place upgrade will roll itself back when it gets too warm while it works fine under operations. I got a big fan pointing at the laptop to get the upgrade done. So that usually indicates there's something wrong with the laptop. In other words, the manufacturer didn't send the laptop out with inefficient cooling. And what ends up happening most of the time with laptops is you get a bunch of lint and material that gets brought in from the fans that gets jammed into the heatsink. And if you open the laptop up and grab some tweezers or something, you can pull the lint. It looks like lint that comes out of a dryer, a clothes dryer. And what it's doing is it's blocking the air from flowing through the heatsink, just as the lint on the on the clothes dryer filter. You can't see through the filter when the lint's on it. You peel the lint off, you'll often get a nice sheet of it, especially if you're supposed to do it after every load of laundry, but I know people that don't do it for like 6 or 7 loads of laundry, and they end up with lint that's this thick, and that dryer's not working effectively and efficiently if it can't blow air through the screen. So they'll tell you, the manufacturers will tell you, clean that lint trap every single time you do a load of laundry. Well, on a laptop, it's bringing in constant hairs, especially if you have pets, or if you yourself have hair. It's getting in there. Dust, lint itself gets sucked in by the fans, and it gets jammed up against the back of the heatsink to a point where it blocks the heatsink, just like the lint is blocking the screen on the clothes dryer. And then your laptop starts running hot. You'll know because it gets louder than it normally used to be, and now it's like louder all the time. It'll feel warm to the touch, warmer than you're used to, and you'll start getting errors, failures. What I see a lot of content creators do is they'll say, well, here's how we're going to fix this. We're going to open it up, and we're going to change the thermal pads, and we're going to clean out all the dust and debris that's in the fan and in the heatsink. Well, 98% of cooling that laptop off is done by clearing out the dust. 2% improvement is made by changing the pads. But changing the pads is the most complex fix, that you need special tools for, right? You need to buy the thermal materials and cut them custom, and if you do that for a living, it's no big deal. But if you've never done it before and you go through all this effort, there's a great chance you're going to break your laptop. And if you are successful, let's just say you do everything just like the professional, you're only going to see a 2-degree improvement at most. So these professionals, they think nothing of it. And oftentimes, if you ask the professional, you say, listen, what if you just cleaned out all the dust and debris without taking anything further apart? How much do your temperatures drop? Figure that out. Then change your thermal pads, and run the same test again. And how much more did you get with regards to any drop in temperature? And see for yourself those results. Now, the content creator or the professional will say, well, I'm in there anyway. I have all the tools. I do this all the time. Why wouldn't I do it while I'm in here? Well, you know what you're doing. You have experience. You've done it thousands of times. The people watching you may never have done it before. They don't have the materials. They don't have the tools. And they don't have the experience. And you're going to encourage your viewers make their computers that they rely on a guinea pig for their very first operation. And the idea that it's so simple that you're not going to fail is delusional. So if the bulk of your cooling is going to be improved by simply clearing out the fans and heat sinks, and a little teeny tiny improvement on the thermal compound with a giant risk and specialty materials needed to replace the thermal pads and custom cut them and seat them correctly, and then put everything back together where you don't lose any screws and you don't break anything, it's not worth it. Unless you plan on doing it for a living, that's just not a useful skill for you. You're going to do it once every, 4 or 5 years? Just leave it alone. But yet opening up a laptop and blowing the dust out of it is just as important as a desktop computer. And I've seen some pretty nasty ones, and there's some other content creators here on YouTube that'll just show you just the nastiness that builds up in a laptop. And often just cleaning that out is all you need to do, and everything runs like new again. Super easy, very little risk for damage. There's still always risk for damage, but that's very minimal. Peter VZ out there in the Netherlands sent an Amazon, he sent a gift membership, and Sam Van Thiel received it. So from Peter to Sam Van Thiel, a free month's membership here. Welcome in as a member, Sam. And thank you, Peter. Ophelia says, hello, welcome in. David Graham said, I'm always cleaning hair off of my floors and I have no pets. I guess you have hair. Or you used to. Andy Kane says 55 degrees Fahrenheit here in Wicklow, County Wicklow. I suppose that's Ireland. Lou Greeny is out in Vermont. He says, when I went to work this morning, it was 31 degrees Fahrenheit, already below freezing. Wow. David Graham said, I always wondered why people move to Florida to retire. It's so humid. People that move to Florida to retire are New Yorkers, just so you know. The masses of people retiring who live their working life in New York, the bulk of them go to Florida to retire. People in California don't go to Florida to retire, generally speaking. People in Maine or Connecticut, generally speaking, don't go to Florida to retire. People in Nevada, pretty much anywhere, the bulk of it's all from New York. So if you don't live in New York, you don't get it. But if you lived in New York, you'd say, well, of course you retire in Florida. What else are you going to do? It's just something that comes along with being a New Yorker. I think it's a law. Mark Leibowitz said, I'm always pulling hairs out of my laptop keyboard. The follicle challenged may now feel free to gloat. Todd Wickham says it is 9 degrees Celsius or 48 degrees Fahrenheit here, wherever here is. Nick Poverman, oh, look at this. Wait a minute. Our friend Buster sent 10 gift memberships. These are $10 a piece. And Buster is paid for membership for Jim Seaver, WU9A. He received a gift membership from Buster. Disabled Reseller Part-Time also received a gift membership from Buster. Taz PT, Brian A, and Ron Wilbur, along with Proximo, Ghetto Fortnite, and Eshram Blazer, and Nick Poverman, and Kais Nova, all received gift memberships on behalf of Buster.
Buster also sent another card.
Oh, did he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Buster. Holy moly. That's like 4 gifts from Buster today. Well, it's more than 4 if each individual counts as a gift, which it does. That's like 19 gifts today from one guy. And Buster sent an Amazon gift card for the super chat where he wasn't able to join us for the previous show. And again, very thoughtful, very generous man. And we're so lucky to have people like Buster, including Buster, as part of this community to represent and lead by example when we talk about kindness and we talk about support. Just to randomly gift a membership to some random individual you don't even know, just random acts of kindness. We just don't see them in the world much these days. And, you know, and again, it's not just Buster. We also saw these random acts of kindness from Peter VZ, as well as, scrolling up, Luke Greenia also sent a gift membership. Mark Gaines sent a gift membership. You guys rock. Just an amazing part of the community. And if you agree and you want to be a part of the community, what's stopping you? Come on in, say hello. To communicate with us doesn't cost you anything. You don't need a membership for that, not during today's video. And on the members only videos, those are for members only. So it's a much smaller group. It's a little more informal, more intimate. And I tend to be, you know, talking about some things I don't normally talk about on public videos. So it offers us a little clubhouse, if you will. Think of it as a public golf course with a private clubhouse. Public can golf, but only the members can join into the clubhouse. We'd love to have you, but in any way that you're comfortable. If you're a kind and supportive person, we would just love to see this community grow with like-minded individuals, and hopefully you agree with that. So the media has been having a heyday with the end of support for Windows 10. It's the end of Windows 10. It isn't. It's all just clickbait. Windows always gets updates every second Tuesday of the month. And what the news isn't necessarily telling you is that this last set of updates for Windows 10 will be the last set of updates. You normally wouldn't get any more updates until the second Tuesday of November anyway, so it's not like, oh, Windows is dead now. No, it isn't. So what do I do when I need updates, Carey, if it's not dead? Well, first of all, you wouldn't be expecting any until the second Tuesday of November. And all you have to do is ask for it. It's free. Well, I read it was $30. Well, yeah, if you'd rather pay $30 than ask for it for free, that's your choice. I mean, Microsoft says if you want to pay for it, that's fine. People say, well, what about signing in every 60 days? That's for the European Economic Area only. That does not apply to anybody else around the world. We live in a planet of different countries and rules and laws, and you have to remember that. I think people forget. They go, well, this said it required a login every 60 days to your Microsoft account. That's right. But you just said it didn't. I said, no, it's not what I said. I said that if you live in the European Economic Area, then that information is true. You must log into your Microsoft account every 60 days, at least. If you live anywhere outside of that, that does not apply to you. If you're not in the European Economic Area, the European rules and laws only apply to the Europeans. If you're not European, if you're not in the EEA, isn't this obvious? Well, I have a speed limit in Texas. It's 80 miles an hour on the freeway. Yeah, we don't have an 80 mile an hour speed limit in Arizona. I'm just saying you obey the rules and laws for where you are. So if somebody says, hey, everybody, the new federal highway speed limit is 75, that is true for highways that qualify for that in the United States. But it's not true for all highways in the United States. And there are a few where that speed limit is actually raised, that there's an exemption in Texas, for example. So you have to know what the rules are for where you live. So when you're hearing about things, you really need to stop for a second and think, is that everybody around the world? And does it apply to me? And the news is not doing a very good job of being fully transparent with this information because, let's face it, it's not that big of a deal. You're not going to click on it. They've got to scare you to get you to click on it. And so long as humans keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's like I said before, it's like when you fake throw the ball to your dog and your dog looks and where'd the ball go? And you're still holding it. And 10 years on, you've been doing this for 10 years to that dog, and that dog still thinks you're throwing that ball every time. The dog never learns. Are we not better than dogs? Apparently not, because it continues to work as an effective means to generate clicks, which generates revenue. And then it gets people all worked up over nothing. And then I come in here and say, relax, this isn't what you think it is. But they said, I know what they said. Sometimes they say it in a way that's not lying, but it's also not truth. You know, there was a Cybertruck that hit a tree, and the poor teenagers inside of the Cybertruck, they couldn't get out. And the fire consumed them. It's a terrible story. Shame on Tesla. Oh, did I mention the teenagers were underage and drunk? And probably couldn't get out of the car anyway. If they can't even steer a car without driving it into a tree, they were illegally drinking, they were illegally driving, and chances are, even if the doors could open, they were too drunk to figure out how to open them. So that wasn't part of the story I read. No, but if you read the same story somewhere else, you get missing information. Well, how would I know information's missing? You have to research it. They don't tell you they've left out information. So I find that to be despicable, but that's what the news agencies do. And if you really want to know the truth, you've got to look at the reporting from other news agencies and kind of figure out where the gaps are between the two. I like to go to other countries' websites. Like, for example, if I want to know what's really going on in America, I go to the bbc.com/news. Or I'll go to Australia News or Canadian News, although Canadian News kind of mimics American news. And sometimes I'll hit South Korean news too and see if they're talking about America. I want to see what their view of it is because they don't have necessarily the same political biases. And it's getting tougher and tougher to find any accurate source of fully transparent news in this country. But what they all have in common, almost universally, is they want to scare you. And the next time they want to scare you again, and the next time they want to scare you again, the next time they want to scare you again, And until you stop responding to it, they're going to keep doing it. As long as my dog keeps thinking I'm throwing that ball every single time, I'm never going to stop faking that dog out because it's amusing. But for these companies, it's profitable. So when we change our behavior, we have to go first. We have to change our behavior first. Then they'll respond. But they have no reason to stop that money coming in. It's up to each and every one of us to choose to be clickbait, just so you know. And if you are clickbait, don't believe it 100% unless you verify it from another news source. Or better yet, from the actual source itself. So when people talk about the whole 60-day requirement for logging into Microsoft's account, your Microsoft account, to keep ESU enabled, it just took me a few minutes on a live video to Google what Microsoft has to say about that. And I couldn't find it. And I think it was Andy in Ireland that sent me the same Amazon link, not Amazon, the same Microsoft link. Microsoft has different websites in different countries. So he sent me the Irish Microsoft website. And the 60 days is mentioned there. And the Microsoft website here in the USA mimics it almost word for word until you get to that part of it. And that's where it was changed for the EEA, or the European Economic Area. It took me 10 minutes, probably less. So why a journalist can't do that, or why a journalist won't, is something to make you think about. So just be aware, that's the condition of things. And as AI fake videos like Sora 2 are coming out, it's only going to get more difficult and more confusing. Best to be skeptical until you have evidence is the best advice I can give you. Don't dismiss it, just be skeptical until you have evidence. Chris Dunn says, Buster rocks. Agreed. Johnny says, nice one, Peter Laycock. Elijah 52 Dickens says, you see that, Carey? Buster's on a roll. He's always on a roll. What are you talking about? €1 comes in from our friend Peter VZ, joining us from the Netherlands. Thank you, Peter. If you're new here, you're like, what are these contributions? We don't have any sponsors here. So when I present equipment to review, routers, computers, mini PCs, laptops, we sometimes get them from the manufacturers in exchange for review. Sometimes manufacturers will not work with us, in which case we go on Amazon and we buy what we want to review using money that's contributed through our community. So we have an Orico NAS on the way that was ordered from Kickstarter. That they didn't offer one to us, although Orico's been very kind to us. They're not sending us everything. So something we wanted, they wouldn't send us. We asked. So we just bought it. It's like $800. Plus we have to get drives to put into it. We wanted to review Ugreen NAS, and Ugreen said we have to see the video before you're allowed to show it. I go, that's not how live videos work. And they said, well, then we're not sending you one. I said, no problem. I went on Amazon, I bought one. Only now when I reviewed it, it changed my attitude, because where I was excited to see what they had done, now my attitude is, I wonder what they're trying to hide. So instead of like looking at this like a brand new toy, what I was looking at was something hidden. What are they hiding? So I had a very different attitude on that review. I'm like, I'm trying to figure out why they would be so insistent that they would deny us the ability to review their product unless we meet their I was going to say blackmail, but it's basically they're trying to exert control and micromanage, when if you really believed you had a good product, that wouldn't be required. Companies like Minis Forum send us computers all the time. They go, have at it, Carey. We're so confident with this computer that you're not going to find anything wrong with it. That says a lot about the company's faith in their own products versus we want to see it before you air it. That also says a lot about a lack of trust. That company thinks that I'm going to intentionally betray them to use it as some sort of a way to get at them. I have to have a reason. You know what I mean? Like that. You clearly don't know who I am or what I do, and you have no appreciation for it. And if I have any criticisms, it's really just there to help what I believe will make the product more valuable to the consumer, given that I work with consumers all the time. And I've been in this business over 30 years, which is longer than anybody who's ever sent me products for review. None of the products we receive for review have been in business as long as I have. So that doesn't mean I'm right, but it does mean that when I'm giving you advice, I'm not just a home user telling you about my individual, isolated bubble needs. I'm telling you this is what customers ask of me all the time. I know what my customers want. Now, my customers are all in the Phoenix area, pretty much. Is that cultural to Phoenix? How would I know? You know, do customers in Georgia want something different? I don't know. I don't suspect so. And I do ship computers all over the United States, and I can tell you pretty much everybody wants the same thing, the same expectations. So when I'm critical of companies, it's intended to help them. This is a way to improve. If you think you're beyond improvement, don't send me your product, because then what you're looking for is a commercial. I don't make commercials here. If you want to pay me to make a commercial, money talks. I'm open to it, but I will not call it a review. Most content creators do. Many content creators make a commercial, and you can tell because they'll have a number of products and a number of videos where they never say anything negative, because they don't want to upset that financial arrangement with the company, because they'll lose their income and then they won't be able to afford to make videos anymore. But to have the nerve to call it a review when it's paid for, that's just a flat out lie and an abuse of the English language. Andy says he heard from Cypede. They are shipping my Nano KVM Desk Pro today. I got the same email today. I had ordered, initially on May 23rd, I ordered one. And I started thinking about it, and sometime I think in June or July, maybe it was June, I said, let me order 2 more. And my thought was, if I use one at Studio A and one here at Studio C, then if I have a customer that needs one, I don't have any spares, so I'll order 3. Because they're only $100 and change a piece. So even if they're terrible, it's not a bad investment. So I received the first one I ordered back in May. That came in. We did videos on it on the members only earlier this week. I think Monday and Tuesday we covered it. And it's got problems. The software needs polishing. I personally feel like if you need a KVM to work today, don't buy the Pro version. Get the Nano KVM. Stay away from the Pro. The reason I say this is the Nano KVM is on version 229 of their app. The Nano KVM Pro is on version 114. The difference is the Nano KVM's been out a year, so there's been time to polish and improve. The Nano KVM Pro has a lot of rough edges. It's a lot of things that don't work right with it. It also runs very hot. It runs hotter than any other KVM I've ever run into or experienced. But on the other hand, that's not necessarily affecting its performance or anything. It's just weird. It's different, but not necessarily dangerous. It doesn't get so hot that you can't touch it, but it gets hotter than any other KVM. I've also updated the Comet from GLINet, and it had a couple of updates because I've not been using it. I thought it was just too rough. Well, they've updated it a lot since the last time I plugged it in, and now it's a lot better, but it still takes 4 cables. It needs a USB for power, a USB for keyboard and mouse, HDMI, and Ethernet. So the GLINet Comet Pro was on Kickstarter. I think it still is. I ordered one. It's Wi-Fi, so I think that'll just need power, keyboard, mouse, and video output, and they both have video loopback, the Nano KVM Pro and the GLINet Comet Pro. GLINet Comet Pro shouldn't ship until December, though. And Mara says I've got email. So let me go over here, check on our messages. Eddie Casanova said he got his today. There you go. Oh, Mark Gaines sent us an Amazon gift card. I hope you enjoy this gift card. Here's my contribution in lieu of Super Chat. Well, thank you, Mark. Slancha. Am I saying it right? Slancha? Cheers. If you're ordering a Nano KVM Pro, in my experience, the Pi KVM software works a lot better, except there appears to be no way to change the admin name or login password away from the default without doing terminal commands, which is not acceptable to me. That's still rough around the edges. But it's better than version 1.14 of the current application of the Nano KVM Pro software. So that being said, the regular Nano KVM is cheaper. It's available today. You don't have to wait for it. You go on Amazon, you'll spend less money. It doesn't have the video loop out. It doesn't have any Wi-Fi. But what it does have is a more polished application that works brilliantly. So in this case, I think the older version, for me personally, works better. And I don't think the Nano KVM Pro is ready for prime time yet. It's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of potential, but it's got a long way to go. I'd give it a year. Just like the Comet. I did not like the Comet. But until I just recently updated it and realized just how many updates it's had while it's been sitting powered off on a shelf, then when I started using it, it was responsive and it was like, wow, okay, maybe it's worth the 4th cable. I don't know. When I'm talking about the regular Nano KVM, the one that I recommend for people is this little guy right here, which if I come over here and put on the right screen, I can see myself. This little box right here, and I simply plug it into my network, and I've got 2 cables. One is USB for keyboard and mouse, and the other is HDMI, but you have to disconnect your monitor. So this replaces the monitor. And then I log into this over my network. I can even log into this over the internet if I want to set up Tailscale on it, which is free. And this screen will display my IP address. And I just type that IP address in a browser. No software is needed, and I have full remote access to a computer here on my local area network or anywhere in the world, including the BIOS, as if I were sitting right in front of the computer. It transmits the video out to this box. So I'm logged into the box. I'm not logged into the other computer. The box then transmits, receives rather, the video from the computer. And then this cable right here simultaneously provides power that lights this up and powers this little mini computers. What this is a tiny computer who has one purpose, which is to connect me to a computer. And I get the video output of the computer it's connected to, transmitted right through my browser, and I can move my mouse to see the mouse move on the computer that this is plugged into, even including to going into the BIOS, because this is effectively replacing the monitor. Therefore, unlike other remote software, you've got to be in Windows for that to work. We're not logging into the computer. We're logging into this little guy. This is the computer you log into. It's pretty fascinating. And if you want to learn more about it, just look through my videos and look at my reviews of these. They do sell a version of this that doesn't have a screen or a case. It's called the Nano KVM Lite. And that's all it is. And you plug your Ethernet in there. Again, you've got HDMI and you've got USB for the same reasons. And you have to sort of put all this together yourself. So you have to buy these cables. They're not included. You have to buy this little memory card. You have to download the image, burn the image with the downloaded software that you would download separately. It's more of a tech project. You have to glue this little heatsink on. You peel the tape off and stick it on. And then you update the app and you configure this. And now from that point forward, you're good to go. Just plug it in. And this is my go-to because it's so lightweight. And because I've already got it configured, I don't need to look at what the IP address is. I just call it up by name in a browser. No software is required. So if I'm working on a client's machine, I'm not leaving any remote access crumbs behind. We ain't Geek Squad over here. We do it the right way. We're professionals. Planet Cryos with a $2 super chat. And Planet Cryos sent a gift membership as well. And Taj Singh received that gift membership from Planet Cryos. Right on. Thanks, Planet Cryos. Planet Cryos has a YouTube channel where he's been showcasing a lot of different BIOS updates on anything from a laptop to a NUC to a desktop. And he says he didn't intend to become a BIOS update how-to channel, but it's just been working out that way lately. He's had a lot of BIOS updates to do. So if you are looking for any information specifically about BIOS updates, or he does get some gadgets in from time to time that he reviews as well, it wouldn't hurt you to go check out his YouTube channel and show a little love. Give him a thumbs up. Subscribe. It's all free. And I'm sure he'd appreciate it. And I think you're going to really like his content anyway. So why not? Keep up the good work over there at Planet Cryos. I'm catching part of a conversation. He says something about category 7 to future-proof. There's really no standard for category 7 as far as I know. You should go from 6 to 8. And then I don't believe there will be a Cat 9. I think category 8 is the limit of the twisted copper cable of that design. They'd have to change the design. So if there is a 7 and an 8, and there will never be a 9, or at least if there is ever a 9, it'll be a completely different design cable. Then future-proofing isn't 7. Future-proofing would be going to 8. Does that make sense? But if you go to Wikipedia and you ask it, you know, define category 5 versus 6 versus 7 versus 8, there's some confusion over what defines a category 7 cable. It's muddy, and they all don't agree. But 6 and 6A have a standard. For me personally, I only do 6A now. I don't do anything else, because that future-proofs you up to 10 gigs per second. But depending on what your needs are, if you want to future-proof, I'd say skip over 7. You're either going to use 6A, or 8. I see no reason anybody should ever use 7 under any circumstances. That's my opinion. And again, I didn't see the rest of the conversation, so I just saw that piece. David Graham just sent a gift membership, and Chris Pankey received it. And also Mark Leonosio. I never quite know how to pronounce Mark's last name. Leonosio, I think. Says he just subscribed to Planet Cryos. Awesome. That's very kind. And I'm sure Planet Cryos appreciates that. Planet Cryos just sent another gift membership. This time, Alvin Zapanta received the gift membership from Planet Cryos. I keep talking about how amazing and kind this community is, and these random acts of kindness to complete strangers on behalf of our members is, well, extremely generous today, with a number of members all contributing to brand new memberships. And to all our new members, welcome aboard. Enjoy your next 30 days of membership. Maybe you'll want to renew that. You'll get to see all the content the public doesn't get to see. And you get priority access to myself if you have any problems or want to reach out directly. And of course, you have the full archive of videos going back to 2009 available and opened up to you now. Todd Wickham wants to know, Carey, when you apply thermal paste on a processor chip, what symbol do you use so the paste spreads evenly? Yes, it's 9 degrees Celsius or 48 degrees Fahrenheit in Barrie, Ontario. I guess you've never seen any of my 200 build videos. I always do it the same way. I get a nitrile glove and I finger paint the thermal paste onto the CPU to ensure an even coverage across the entire surface. I don't trust any method where I can't see what's happening. This idea of putting a pea-sized dab and making the assumption it's spreading out evenly is insane to me. I don't have this kind of faith. I've never had that kind of faith. So I was taught to do it a different way when I worked in building computers at a company I worked for. And we were instructed to spread the thermal paste evenly. And there's a number of ways you can do that. Sometimes you'll include a spatula. I throw those out. I need to feel it with my fingers. So I put on a nitrile glove. It's a powder-free, non-sterile glove. I put down what I eyeball as I think enough to cover the chip. And I use my finger and I start painting as if it were an oil paint. I don't know if you've ever finger painted before, but it's no different. And you make sure that the paint covers, just like you were painting a house or painting anything really. You want to make sure that it's all covered in paint. You don't want a big old glob of paint somewhere, right? So you want a nice even coating. It doesn't have to be thick. It doesn't have to be thin. It's just got to be a nice, I mean, if you don't know what a coat of paint looks like, I don't know what to tell you. And then when I'm done, I pull the glove off, which turns it inside out, and I throw that into the garbage, and it keeps everything nice and clean. Then I take the heat sink and I apply it on top. Everything's cool. Never had a problem. And then I don't have to wonder. Because if you put on too little, how will you ever know? And if you put on too much, you have a mess to clean up. I'm going to catch this mosquito, man. This is a time of year when it gets humid and the weather cools down a little bit. Mosquitoes come out and he's trying to eat me alive. So don't mind me if I seem a little distracted. I'm assuming the 4K camera's picking that little guy up, but it's hard to know when they're on you. It's when they jump off and they've already bitten you that you feel it. So I'm trying to stay on top of that, or I'm going to be a little itchy later. Mark says his name is Leoncio. Leoncio? Am I better at that? Leoncio? Peter mentioned you could use Scotch tape. Yeah, you can take a piece of, like if you don't have the rubber gloves, you can take a piece of cellophane tape, put it on the end of your finger like that, and then spread the thermal compound. You will still get a little bit on your finger. Then take that piece of tape when you're done and throw it into the trash can. The idea is that you want to feel how much you're putting down. And you'll feel your finger gliding when you've got thermal compound under it. When you start, if let's say you're not using enough thermal compound, your finger won't slide anymore. It'll start to get friction. And you'll say, oh, let me move some of this thermal compound over here, spread it out a little more evenly. Or now when you're moving it, now it's got friction over here. That's a clear sign you didn't put enough on. It's just like painting a wall. If you've ever painted anything in your life, like your house, inside or outside, you might have to put on a coat or two if you didn't use enough paint. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a nice, level, even coating, but we don't need measuring instruments other than our eyeballs and using our senses so we can feel that it's okay, it's gliding. And one of the last things I do to prevent any sort of air bubbles or any sort of unevenness is I tap. Once I've got that whole thing leveled out, I tap on the paint or the thermal compound. I'm going to refer to it as paint. And it creates these little hills and valleys all over. And I tap, 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 tap until it all looks evenly like a popcorn ceiling. You know, it just has a level of random peaks that are sort of evenly spread around. And then when I squish the heatsink on top of it, that flattens out. And it takes care of any potential air bubbles. Even though air bubbles aren't really a thing to worry about, it's only something that exists on the internet. It's not an airtight system, and when the thermal compound heats up, it becomes much more fluid and it flows. So air can create bubbles from outside, could come in. It's not a real thing. But people don't listen. Like they are convinced that the person who made all this nonsense up knows what they're talking about. And when I tell them the truth, they think I'm the liar. So rather than argue with people, which is a complete waste of my time because they're not interested in learning, what I do is I just tap on it and I go, there, it solves the issue regardless. Done. It's a lot more efficient means of communication with people on the internet anyway. I don't know what the obsession with heat and thermal compound is. It does not exist outside of the internet. I've never met a customer, well, maybe a handful of customers that have had heat-related problems in 35, 34 years of doing this. It's been maybe a half dozen times, maybe at most. But on the internet, you'd think this was an ongoing issue. Now, if you're somebody who pushes your hardware, you're overclocking and you're pushing it beyond the engineering specifications, the same is true with anything in life. If you want to push your car harder than it was designed to run and get more horsepower out of your car, maybe you want to add nitrous oxide. Do you know what happens when you add nitrous oxide to an engine on a car? You get boost, right? You get more power. And then you know what happens after that? Your engine blows up. And then you just buy a new $3,000 engine and you're good to go. So if you want to do that and you want to spend all that money so you can get that little bit of horsepower, you're killing your car. Unless it was specifically designed with harder pistons and higher compression ratios, you just screwed yourself. Now, some people, they have all kinds of other people's money to spend. I don't know if they're trust fund babies or they're just born into wealth and they'll just buy a $50,000, $80,000 car, ruin it, putting all kinds of unnecessary tires and rims and wrap it, make it look pretty and show it off and crash it into a telephone pole, and it has no impact on their life at all. They can bail out of jail, somebody else pays for it, it's just a good time. Maybe in my next lifetime, but I have to take care of everything I buy because I'm not wealthy. And if what I bought isn't good enough, that was my bad purchasing decision. I see people that buy the cheapest thing they can buy. They'll buy a mini PC for $135. And when they get it, they'll ask for support help in wondering how they can increase the megahertz or the frequency of the graphics card. You go, you can't do that on a mini PC usually. Well, I can do it on these other PCs. Yeah, those other PCs are more expensive. These mini PCs, especially the budget ones, they don't offer you that option. Well, why not? Because they don't want the support calls that come in from people who do that. But I want to do it. Well, then you shouldn't have bought this one. You cannot do it with this $135 computer. If that's what you wanted to do, you bought the wrong machine. There's got to be a way. There isn't. No, it's locked in the BIOS. You cannot change it. And it's done to make sure the computer runs reliably, that you're not going to cook it, you're not going to set it on fire because you've irresponsibly made a decision that you don't fully comprehend. It's not allowed. And this is pretty frequent in Dell and HP and Lenovo's too. They lock them down. They're not going to deal with children. That's a behavior of children, or it's a behavior of research scientists. That's it. When you're in the middle as a hobbyist, if you want to do that to your own machine and you want to break it, that's your business, and I hope you have enough money to buy another one. I wasn't raised that way, and I wouldn't do that to my customers, and I wouldn't advise any of you to do it because it's foolishly a waste of money. If what you bought isn't meeting your needs, the solution is to return it and buy something else. That's my opinion, that's my advice, and feel free to do it, whatever you want. But if you bought a little tiny plate of food and you eat it and you go, I'm still hungry, well, buy some more food. Well, I don't have any more money. Well, then I guess you should have thought about that when you were ordering. Instead of getting the 4-ounce filet mignon that didn't fill you up, for the same price, you could have got a burger and fries and a drink and a dessert. It's your decision. What are you coming to me for? You made that decision. That's the way I see it. Andy says, great job on the video you posted earlier, Planet Cryos. Great videos as always. Nice. I agree. He does a great job. James says, Carey, I'm helping a buddy build a Ryzen 7 5700G system tomorrow, but the case has only one exhaust fan. Is it absolutely necessary to have an intake fan, or will one exhaust fan suffice? The only reason I will ever put on a front fan, an intake fan, would be to cool a graphics card. So if the idea behind the 5700G is that you're using the onboard graphics, all you're adding with more fans as intake is bringing in dust and hair. They add noise, they add expense, and they make zero difference in the temperature of the case. And if you don't believe me, try it and see for yourself. Run your own tests. People are obsessed with heat on the internet. And no matter how often I mention this, right to your face, several of you still come back at me with heat issues. What are the issues you're having with heat? Well, we're trying to avoid having issues with heat. Why would you think you needed to avoid it? Just build it properly. Why? Can anybody tell me? Because I find psychologically this is fascinating. Anywhere other than online, in real life, nobody talks to me about heat with their computer. It's a pretty rare conversation. But online, on the internet, it's as though this is something to be conquered. You're buying consumer-grade materials. You're not at MIT researching and developing new technology. The stuff's pretty bulletproof. They're selling it to consumers. And I'm going to say that with the tone similar to the word idiots. In other words, if a manufacturer is providing something to your average consumer, it is dumbed down and all the corners have been rounded around. It's like you're giving it to a baby. This is unfortunately the truth when it comes to consumer products. Because of litigation and because of the lack of education of consumers not understanding what they're buying, corporations have now put warning labels on everything, which should be common sense. In an earlier generation, this would have been unnecessary. So we have an entire generation who believe they're buying something that requires repair. It's a brand new product. If you use it the way it was intended to be used, you wouldn't have any problems with it. But the minute you want to overclock it, the minute you're trying to outsmart the system, that's when everything changes. That's when you decide to go on your own path and to do your own thing. But at the end of the day, you're still not at MIT. You're still dealing with consumer-grade electronics, which means any sort of improvement you can force on it through more voltage or overclocking will result in about 7% of a difference. It's so meaningless and negligible. It's just a silly waste of time and money that ultimately degrades your silicon faster and could void your warranty. And you could have random screens, blue screens, and crashes that just have no rhyme or reason, all because you voluntarily decided to impose that on yourself because what was sold to you wasn't good enough. Which takes me back to, if that's the case, you should have spent more money and got a newer, higher-end Ryzen. These, like the 5700G, will come with a CPU cooler. In theory, you don't even need a rear exhaust fan. On that Ryzen system, without a discrete GPU, no fans other than what comes on the GPU. Well, let's say there is a GPU. Fans on the GPU, the fans on the power supply, and the fan is on the cooler. It's all included. You don't have to add any more to that. Period. End of story. But the internet would have you believe you need to. I'd say prove to me you need it. And if you can't prove to me you need it, you don't need it. There's a difference between what you want. There's a difference between your emotion and then what are the facts? What is the reality? I respect your emotion, but your emotion is your choice. Not much I can do to help you on that. But if you want the facts and you can show me a particular symptom you're trying to resolve, that symptom may not be resolved by a fan. That's all I'm trying to tell you. It might be, but it might not be. The assumption that fans are the end-all be-all, let's make something clear. Fans don't lower temperatures in the sense of like a room. I'm standing in a studio right now with a ceiling fan on. The temperature of the studio doesn't change because that fan is on. My temperature changes, right? I have cool air running over me. But if nobody is in this room and that fan is on, it's just wasting electricity. It's not doing anything. So the fans blowing air over heat sinks and things can help remove the heat away from the heat sink and push it out. But it shouldn't be that much to begin with because that's what the heat sink was designed to do. If it were required, it would have come with the heat sink. See what I'm getting at? But when you want to experiment and research and develop, bleeding edge technology, experimental electronics, maybe you're working for the NASA space program and you're trying to develop something that can work in outer space, then we can have these kind of conversations. But so long as you're just buying the same residential nonsense consumer stuff the rest of us are buying, I can assure you most consumers take it out of the box, plug it in and use it, and they don't have any problems. But if you look on the internet with all these enthusiasts always trying to get more for their money, what they're really doing is spending more and having problems the rest of us don't have. And the win for that, I suppose, is all emotional. It's this idea that somehow you've stuck it to the man or you've gotten away with something, but there are long-term consequences to that decision-making process that you and you alone will suffer from: early component failure, random blue screens, and just bizarre things that just aren't happening to anybody else because you decided that you could outsmart the engineers. You're welcome to. You're not breaking any laws, but do understand your long-term expectations should be to expect failures, and more failures and earlier failures than people who don't do that. And you're going to spend more money to do it too. But that's your freedom of choice. I choose differently. There are consequences. That's all I'm saying. Pablo says thermals are an issue that only concerns data center reliability engineers and system engineers. I mean, it depends on the data center. A lot of data centers will have liquid cooling, the likes of which you've never seen before. It looks like a water treatment facility where there's a retention pond and water flows in through pipes about this big through giant generators outside the building. And then they will pipe into the server racks. They'll have in and out as they go through giant radiators, and up into the ceiling, another large pipe. There'll be water coming in and water going out, and you'll have to wear air protection. It's very loud in there, and you're looking at millions and millions of dollars of investment and regular maintenance that has to occur full time from IT staff to maintain that. It's just like you changing the oil on your Honda Civic versus working for the government and having to change the oil and do the maintenance on 100 police cars and 50 ambulances and 20 fire trucks. And there's so much more variety and it's more complex that these two things are not even similar. It's like you say, well, I do computer repair. Oh, well, then you know how to program. No. Oh, I know how to write databases. Oh, well, then you know how to build a computer. No. I do server administration. Oh, so you know how to fix desktop over here for desktop support? Nope. Don't know that stuff. I only know this stuff up here. Andy says about all you can do to a mini PC is increase the TDP. Yeah, and oftentimes that's already in the BIOS for you to select. You'll usually have like a quiet, efficient mode, a balanced mode, which is usually the default out of the box, and a high performance mode. And there's maybe 10 watts of difference between them, between each step. When you go into performance mode, you're going to lose your efficiency. It's going to create more heat. It's going to mean the fan's going to run more often. It's going to be louder, and you're going to get a little bit faster. But again, if you have to do that, I think you underbought. You did not spend enough money and you purchased something that doesn't meet your needs. And instead of returning it and buying something that's better suited to your needs, thinking that you can just manipulate it, it's too limited. It's not going to let you do it. The amount you're going to get back is so minuscule. It's really just psychological, psychological influence than it is reality. But if it makes you feel good, I'm not here to tell you not to do it. I won't be involved. I got other things to do that make a measurable difference. I mean, in real life, outside of benchmarks. Future Tune said I had a PC come in that was dropped. The power supply was dead. I checked out the motherboard. It had no shorts. But I still didn't risk frying any equipment. So I passed on the repair and recovered the data. How would you? How would I what? That's an individual decision. If you're asking me, would I have made the same decision? I don't know. I didn't see it. What you're describing is what you saw. That's not what I saw. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I might have saw something different than you saw. Is this Gatorade, is it half full or is this half empty? Either way, you're right. And then someone could say, well, maybe the Gatorade bottle's too big. That's why it looks like it's half empty. That's also correct. Maybe the Gatorade bottle is too small. Actually, if it was too small, wouldn't it be overflowing? If the Gatorade bottle was smaller, it wouldn't be as low, right? The fluid would be higher. All I'm trying to say is every one of those ways of looking at things are all correct. So just because you looked at it one way and you say, would you have made the same decision? You're making the assumption I would have seen what you saw or that I wouldn't have seen it differently. So unless I saw it, I cannot tell you. Besides, what difference does it make what I would have done? It's already done. I spilled some milk. What would you have done? I mean, it's already spilled. Doesn't matter anymore. On the Lion King, he smacks him on the head with a stick. He goes, ow, why'd you do that? He says, what does it matter? It's in the past. I love that scene. You should have enough confidence in your ability to not care what anybody else would have done. You do it the way you know how to do it. You do it the way you're willing to stand behind and support. If you're not willing to stand behind and support it, I strongly advise you don't do it. Strongly advise you tell the customer, take it somewhere else. And if that somewhere else decides they can fix it, that's on them. Just as yours is on you and mine is on me. I stand behind everything I do. You should stand behind everything you do. Don't worry about what I do. I don't worry about what you do. I don't need you to agree with me or to disagree with me. I know exactly what I'm doing and what risks I'm taking and what I believe is the best decision for me and the customer. So I advise you to do the same. Stand on your own 2 feet. Don't worry about what anybody else does. You got a happy customer and you're happy with the work you've done and you're happy supporting it and standing behind it, then that's exactly what I would do too, whatever that is. Larry there in LRCX in the chat room says, my Corsair 200R case has only an exhaust fan and it runs at 113 Fahrenheit right now as I'm online. I broke the intake fan when I blew it out over a year ago. No issues at all. So I always measure computer temperatures in Celsius. And I don't know what 113 Fahrenheit is. So let me just see, 113 F2C. 45 degrees Celsius is nothing. That's actually quite cool. Yeah. Yeah. When you get up to like 95, maybe even 90, but you're more than halfway away from that, so that's nothing. That's considered chilly in the world of computers. I just didn't get the Fahrenheit because I don't measure, like BIOS is default to Celsius. That's just what I've gotten used to in all my years. I don't use Celsius anywhere else, by the way. James says, thanks for the advice. No, I appreciate the question. If you have questions for me, please do ask. We do try to keep these videos around 2 hours. We're just about approaching that right now, but I will stick around as long as you guys want to interact with me. If you've got nothing else you want to say to me, and I have nothing else I want to say to you, then I guess we're done. But I want to make sure that you're done as well. So that's going to determine if we continue on for another hour or we start to wrap it up. I'm good either way. I got to say, you know, in today's generosity of our community, with Buster giving out, what was it, 10 different memberships, 15 memberships today. That's $150. That's $10 per membership that our friend Buster has paid on behalf of complete strangers for 30 days of access here. And it's a wonderful way to support the channel, by the way. Mark Gaines also gave a gift membership, as did Luke Greenia and Peter VC. And Planet Cryos did as well, as did David Graham. And Planet Cryos gave away 2, actually. So that's a lot of gift memberships today. You guys rock. I can't thank you enough for that. And I can't say welcome enough to everybody new who's been gifted memberships. I hope you take advantage of that membership and join us every Monday at 1 o'clock for our members only videos. And right now, if you want to, you can look in the video archive to all the members only videos you've missed. For example, Monday, earlier this week, we did a teardown and overview of the Nano KVM Pro. I am not ready to go public with a review of that yet. It's just between my learning curve and its limitations to figure out, is it me or is it it? I felt like if I do this publicly, a lot of the public viewers, they don't get what I'm doing. Like, I'm learning on camera. I'm saying I'm going to have a brand new experience with this product with you and me together. We're going to experience it for the first time together. And then once I've done that, then I can go public with it. And the thing is I was doing that publicly, but too many viewers don't understand what I'm doing. Too many viewers go, well, it's very unprofessional of you to be unprepared and make a video. I'm not making a commercial. This isn't a commercial. I'm showing you a real life unboxing and discovery process so you can discover it with me. We can figure it out together. And because over and over and over again, there is a portion of the public viewers who just insist that that's unprofessional. It's an embarrassment to learn on camera. I said, okay, I will do this only for members now, because all the members understand. They get it. We're going to figure this out together. And once I get it figured out and I have an idea of just how everything goes together and how it all works, then I'll make the public review. And because of the state of the Nano KVM Pro, I have a lot of criticisms and a lot of concerns over its current state. I'm also waiting for 2 more to arrive. As I mentioned, you know, I also got the tracking information that it was just recently sent. So it'll be 2-3 weeks out. And I'll verify if the others exhibit the same problem or if mine is somehow damaged, because I don't know. It's the only one I've got. Therefore, I'm not ready to really do a public video on it. When I'm ready, I'll make it. In the meantime, I'll continue to explore it as need be in members only videos where I don't get attacked for being unprofessional simply because I'm sharing my learning experience and the assumption that I have somehow been paid to write a script and read a company's marketing materials isn't what the public got. They get upset. They leave nasty comments that I'm not making a commercial. Otherwise, it's not professional. So the answer is fine. You guys don't get those videos anymore. You don't get it? I'm not going to make you get it. What's the expression? I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. So therefore, that is typical members only content. Also, sometimes I have some diagnostics and repairs that I don't want to share with the public. And I'll say, you know, if you want to see that, you got to support us here. Someone's got to pay the bills. And if you guys want to watch it for free, we're not taking away the free videos. There's still plenty of free content. But much of the free content, just so you know, would not exist if we didn't have the members. And then there wouldn't be any content for anyone, and I'd just be working full-time in IT and just shut this whole thing down. But our members are what's keeping this up and running. And any free content you have as a free viewer is made possible only because of the members. That's it, period, end of story. YouTube doesn't pay anything like they used to. If I made $100 on a video 2 years ago, that same video today with the same view numbers makes $10. Payments drop 90%. So a content creator's got to find a way to survive. A lot will do brand deals. They make commercials. I'm trying to run an IT repair shop and show you how it's all done as part of the same integrity that I have in my repairs. I don't charge for things customers don't need. I don't bill them for, you know, anything other than what I think is fair for my time. And if I can share that with the world for free, I'd love to. But if I can't, if it's going to cost me money to share it to the world, to the point that it's costing me more than what I'm making, how's that going to work? So if you enjoy this kind of independent, unbiased technical conversation from an actual working computer technician versus an enthusiast who's just having fun, then please support us. And if we don't get enough support, then it's clear that that's not what the public wants. And I'll find something else to do, right? I mean, what choice do I have? But we're far from that, just so you know. We have enough members that they themselves are basically financing this channel. YouTube's contribution is maybe 10% of what our memberships are contributing to the cost of doing it. So just so you know, I'm not getting rich, but we are making ends meet. And the bigger, the more popular memberships get, you know, it's all in the hands of the viewers. The future of this channel is. I've become Yoda. It's all in the hands of the viewers. The future of this channel is. Do or do not. There is no try. Andy says, Carey, I'm going to ride along with you on the Nano KVM train. You're welcome to join me. Where are we going? I don't know. We're going to find out together. Oh, well, that's irresponsible of you. You should figure out where you're going first and then make your video. By the way, the people who do that never contribute to this channel. They just take, and then they complain when what they take they don't like. It'd be like someone robbing your house and saying, all your stuff is crap. Like you invited him in. Yeah, would you like to come in? You can have anything you want. I don't want any of this. It's all junk. I mean, if you're going to invite me in and tell me I could have something, you should have nicer things. Is that the most ridiculous? Is that just me, or is that the most ridiculous thing? Well, that's every day on YouTube, my friends. Every day. All right. Donnie W in the chat wants to know, have I seen any mobile external eGPUs like the Minisforum MGA1? Have any thoughts about them? We have the external eGPU dock from Minisforum, and we did a video on that a couple weeks ago where I was checking to see if like my video capture card would work, if anything other than a graphics card would work in it, because some of those external GPU docks only work with GPUs. And I'm happy to report the Minisforum dock worked with every PCI card we threw in there. Now, I think an external graphics card is one of the dumbest ideas next to putting hubcaps on lawnmowers. It doesn't make any sense to me why anybody in their right mind would take a graphics card with as much money as a graphics card costs, then buy an enclosure or a dock for it, and then buy a power supply for that, and then run cables across your desk, consuming whatever little space you may have to connect it so it can run at a quarter of the speed it would run at if it were internal. It's just one of the dumbest ideas I've ever seen in my life. Me personally, and I'm just being honest, I can't think of any reasonable financial reason to do it, desk space reason, performance reason, reliability reason. It's almost as though people are saying, I've got so much money, I don't know what to spend it on. What sort of needless crap can I buy? Because if what you wanted was a machine that had a graphics card, you should be buying a bigger machine. Like this mini computer here can support a full-length graphics card inside of it. And it's very portable. If you were like, I want a portable machine. It's not very portable to have 4 different pieces, the power supply, the GPU dock, the graphics card, and the mini PC, and the mini PC's power supply, and all the cabling. That's not portable. It's the opposite. So I don't really have any interest in it, to be honest, because I think it's stupid. I think the whole concept of it has no practical use case scenario that nobody ever asked for. I don't get it. I don't get why you would spend all that money on the graphics card, then spend additional money on the dock and power supply, and then have the thing run at Gen 4 speed, by 4 speeds, when it can run it by 8 or by 16 internally. I don't. It goes right over my head, man. I think it's a complete waste of money and a terrible judgment. But you asked, I'm being honest. Nothing against you personally. I don't even know you. I'm not attacking you. I just wonder, what are you thinking? Why would you do that? I don't Can anybody give me an example and enlighten me? I'm not being sarcastic. I don't understand why you would do that. It's so expensive and so slow, and it's so complex with all the other cables. Why wouldn't you just buy a little computer that can take a graphics card? Mike's Unboxing, another great YouTube channel, by the way. Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How-To out of England. Said, good evening all. I just popped in to say thanks to whoever gifted my channel membership. I hope you're all having a great afternoon or evening. I'm just getting ready for bed here. Yeah, that was our friend Peter Laycock. We call him Buster. And welcome into membership, Mike. We're glad that it was very nice of Buster to do that. And yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How-To, he lives in the Great British Empire. Is it still the Empire? We used to have kingdoms, and the kingdoms were ruled by kings. And we had empires, and the empires were ruled by emperors. Today we have countries. I'm not going to finish that thought. Yeah, Mark Gaines is telling Mike's Unboxing that was Peter Laycock. Thank you, Mark. John Kennedy wants to know, Carey, is it better to just buy these small computers now? I have 2 and I love them, as opposed to building a computer. It depends what your needs are. Some people still need that big tower computer for various reasons. I've had a few businesses that said, look, we don't want to give up the 200Rs have the built-in, we've added the built-in optical CD DVD reader. And it's interesting because neither one of these customers knows the other one, but they both are ready for Windows 11 replacement. And I said, do you want to replace it with a mini PC, or do you want me to rebuild what's in your Corsair 200R? And they said, we don't care. Doesn't matter to us. But what do we do about CDs and DVDs? I go, well, you could just buy a portable external USB one and plug it in when you need it. Don't want to do that. I said, well, then I guess we've answered your question. We'll just rebuild in your 200R. You guys are using the CDs and DVDs? Well, once in a while, pretty rarely, but when we need it, we need it. No problem. So I think as far as upgrading goes, and customers' requests to still have a CD and DVD drive, this will probably be the last upgrade I do in my life for a business where they give a rat's behind about the CD and DVD, because they're already telling me it's only at this point a couple times a year. It's not going to get any more popular next year. It's only going to be faded out slowly until it's forgotten. So probably when they're ready for their next upgrade in 5 or 6 years, we're going to have the conversation, should I get a mini PC or should we rebuild? I doubt that they're going to even, if we bring up the optical drive, I'll say, when's the last time you used it? And within 5 or 6 years from now, they're probably going to say, I don't remember the last time we used it. So we're just on the tail end of what's remaining. And eventually that just fades out. Just like landline telephones, there's still a few out there, but they're fading out. 8-track tapes faded out, cassette tapes faded out, iPods faded out. Cameras are fading out now because cell phone cameras are growing exponentially better, faster than digital SLR point and shoot cameras, with more, not only better picture quality, not only the ability to not have to transfer the pictures with a memory card, you just upload it automatically to iCloud or Google Photos. You got your backup, you share it to your social media, everything's instantaneous, more megapixels, and AI picture improvements and filters where you don't have to do that externally in photo editing software. It's all done on the phone. And you're ending up with better lenses and better megapixels than a lot of digital SLRs of yesteryear. Just give it a couple more years and the SLRs won't be able to keep up anymore. And there'll be no reason for it. So then those will slowly fade out, except for the photographic enthusiasts who insist. But I'm telling you, you always have your phone on you. You don't always have a camera on you, but you always have a camera on your phone. And it rivals digital SLRs. At this point now, unless you're a trained eye, most people would never know what you shot the photo on. And by the way, you can buy the best pots and pans in the world. It doesn't make you a better chef. Just saying. Wow, this meal's really good. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Oh, yeah, you must have some really nice pots and pans. Get out. What the hell's wrong with you? Get out of my house. It's kind of the same thing. Bill Sony said he loves his mini PC. Michael M said, I enjoy these live streams. Well, we enjoy having you here, Michael. Thank you. Pablo says, Carey, do you still support some business legacy systems? No, absolutely not. I can't fix them. I can't get parts for them. And if I can, then I have to research and find it on eBay or something, and you never quite know what you're going to get or when it's ever going to arrive, and if it's even going to work. I don't want that at all. And the amount I'd have to charge for that would more than pay for a new computer. It's said that sometimes people fall into habits of addiction because they're self-medicating for a problem in their life. And if you could just solve the problem that they're trying to run from in their life, then the addiction goes away. In other words, rather than sending somebody in rehab, the theory, and I'm no expert on this, but logically it makes sense. When we get to the reasoning why they're self-medicating, if we can fix that reason, then the need to self-medicate goes away. It just solves itself. It's very easy. It's not the process that can be very, very difficult through rehab. But if you have a person that's willing and willing to look at what is causing this self-medication need, if you can remove that, the need goes away and the problem solves itself. So in much the same way, sorry, I'm looking through the chat. Whatever reason somebody has a legacy system, whatever that reason is, if we can resolve that for them, they don't need the legacy system anymore. And a lot of times the solution is there and they don't want to. Again, I can help them, but if they don't want help, that's not a customer I want. I want to ensure my customers have the best experience, meaning most reliability, best performance. It's got to be secure. We've got to have backups. We've got a good system in place. And if a customer is telling me that I have to maintain some old piece of equipment, and I'm like, let's find out why you think you need that. Because I guarantee you, in every situation I've ever seen in my life, there are alternatives that are modern. You don't have to stick with the old stuff. Oh, no, we have to. No, you don't. No, never in my life have I ever encountered that to be true. And I just go, look, I'm not going to argue with the customer. If it were me, I'd replace the system. We can't replace it. I promise you, you can. No, we can't. Okay, then we're done. Because I'm not going to work on that. I'm not going to have that nightmare reflect on the quality of my work. Hey, this old system keeps crashing. I thought you said you were a tech. Yeah, that's only so much I can do. It's old. It's like having an old car. You're going to keep taking it into the shop over and over as things keep breaking until you replace the car. Oh, no, you can't replace the car. Well, then take it to another mechanic. We're done. There's nothing more I can do. I'm not willing to accept liability and responsibility along with warranty, the work I do on something that's failing. It's not within my control. As long as you insist on running that old, outdated piece of hardware and you won't allow me to do my job, then there's no point in me working for you. Find somebody else. That's all. Nothing personal. Doesn't mean I don't like you. It's just I'm not willing to throw my business down the toilet for one customer. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Sam Mandel said, having the best gear does not make you a better chef, but I am sure the food will be affected with less than minimum quality gear. Say the same about anything. Driving a more expensive car doesn't make you a better driver. Having a more expensive camera doesn't make you a better photographer. Having a fancier piano doesn't mean you can play the piano any better. Having a fancy video card and a high-end CPU doesn't make you a better gamer. Andy said he's addicted to his mini computers. Well, you know, not all illnesses are terrible. Some are good. John Kennedy said, I once worked for a law firm and the billing software was 30 years old. It was run on DOS. Millions of dollars a month relied on DOS and a dot matrix printer. It's their business if that's how they want to run it. And it's my business, and that's not how I want to run my business, as far as like getting maintenance calls for things that we can't get parts for that are more frequently going to break, resulting in more service calls and more monopolization of one customer, taking me away from dozens of other customers that, yeah. No, I would not, you know, I'm going to get a Yelp review that said this guy, we hired this guy and then just our system just kept breaking, and no matter how many times he fixed it, it just kept breaking. We can't recommend him. It's not a good tech. That's the review I would get if I agreed to that old legacy hardware. And from their perspective, they're 100% correct. And from my perspective, I did everything I could possibly do. And it wasn't good enough because I don't crap out the parts. Where did these parts come from? You don't want to know. Joseph Hines says, Carey, you are still top of the list as far as techs go on YouTube. The problem with techs on YouTube is most of them aren't techs. They call themselves techs. That's an issue from my perspective because I'm actually working in the field. Some of these techs are people that used to be a tech or they consider themselves techs, but nobody appointed them as a tech. They appointed themselves. And you as a viewer, how would you know them apart? So there are way too many enthusiast channels who will dismiss actually working in the field as unnecessary. Oh, just because I don't work in the field doesn't mean I'm not a tech. No, that is exactly what it means. Try that in a courtroom sometime as a technical expert and explain to the judge what qualifies you as a technical expert. Well, I have a YouTube channel. You're disqualified as a witness. Have a nice day. Does the jury, does the defendant have any other witnesses to call? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so common sense in life, in real life outside of the internet. It's bizarre to me that you just wake up one day and say, I'm a tech, and people believe you. And there's nothing to show somebody. Like, you might have an A+ certification or other certifications, but most people don't even know what that means. So if it sounds like you're talking with confidence and you're talking technical, then it's easy for someone who doesn't know better to assume, yeah, I'll sound like you're a really smart guy. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. It would take another smart guy to determine that, or a smart person, and that'd be a guy. You know what I'm saying? It's not up to you to decide if somebody's smart unless you know if they're smart. And how would you know? Unless you too were similarly educated in that same field. And then you could say, oh, this guy knows his stuff. I'm a heart surgeon and I'm watching House on TV, and I'm telling you what House is doing would get you fired and get you sued, and you wouldn't last long at any hospital if you behaved that way. This is so unrealistic. It is so fake. I don't know how anybody can watch it. And yet everybody who's not a doctor, not necessarily a heart surgeon, but a doctor, would say, oh man, this guy's good. This is totally believable. No, it isn't. Have you ever watched Franklin and Bash, that old show about these two guys that were attorneys? None of that would happen in a courtroom. They would be disbarred. Yeah, none of that nonsense and clowning around would ever work in a real life American courtroom. But it makes for great TV. But if you're not an attorney and you don't regularly spend time in courtrooms with judges, it might seem believable to you. Planet Cryos gifted another membership. This time Buzz Travel received the gift membership. And our friend Ben Laird out of Scotland gifted a membership, and Magnificent Gaming received that gift membership. That's a lot of gift memberships today. That's, I think, the most we've ever seen. We got 5, 6, 7, 8, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23 gift memberships today. Wow. Craig Casamona had contributed a $20 super chat much earlier, just minutes after the stream. I didn't catch it. My apologies, Craig. If you're still watching, thank you for your super chat contribution. Dustin Fuller renewed his membership. Dustin's been a member now for 41 months. And Alhaj Depej with 33 months of membership. Dustin Fuller says, great stream as always, Kara and Mara. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, Dustin. It's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you for renewing your membership and for your support, your continued support. Barry Klein just sent out a gift membership. Look at that. And Cullen Prime just received that membership on behalf of Barry. Thanks, guys. Planet Cryo says, most shows and movies are fake. I find as I'm getting older, the more I appreciate documentaries. There's a show that Mara and I are addicted to called The Mega Brands That Built America. And I cannot take my eyes off of it. Pepsi versus Coke. Goodyear versus Firestone. Kodak versus Polaroid. Xerox versus IBM. It's an hour-long historical look at this brutal, oftentimes underhanded ploy taken between two competing companies that I had no idea. A lot of it's before my time. Kmart versus Target versus Walmart. All started in 1962. All competing for the same thing. Costco versus Price Club versus Sam's Club. Schick versus Gillette. I had no idea about the history of things like toilet paper, how that came about and why. This stuff has always been here since I've been on the planet. Take it for granted. And it turns out some of the people pushing for, let's say, a razor were pushing for it for 10 years, developing and investing. And they're like, you know, a straight edge blade is not a good way to shave. It's dangerous. There's got to be a better way. And so Gillette is focused on making a razor that's safer to use. And Schick, I think it's Schick, is trying to develop an electric razor when, of course, most people don't have electricity. So how's that going to work? So Gillette works on his razor for 10 years and World War I breaks out. What's that got to do with razors? Well, they were using mustard gas in World War I. So they would hand out gas masks to the soldiers. But the soldiers having facial hair, the gas mask did not seal against the face very well. That would let the mustard gas in. Well, you can't use a straight edge blade for a half an hour trying to trim your beard so you can get a good seal of your oxygen mask or your gas mask. Not an oxygen, gas mask. And Gillette said to the military, I've got this portable razor you can distribute to all the soldiers out in the field. They can shave very quickly. They don't need somebody else to do it. And then when those soldiers got home, they wanted those razors, those same ones that were issued to them by the military. And now here we are, you know, we're going to skip past the next 70, 80 years and just talk about, look at where we are with razors. Right? It's a common everyday thing. But if World War I would not have happened, who's to say? It just so happened, you know, he'd been pushing and pushing for 10 years. He just couldn't get people to buy it or be interested. And it took a war, and all of a sudden people couldn't live without it. I am absolutely blown away by that history. The mega brands that built America is, I believe it's on the History Channel, and I believe there are 3 seasons, 10 episodes each. Each episode is an hour long and is dedicated between, you know, 2 or more competitors. From, you know, Levi's versus Lee Jeans is an interesting history. How did Levi's even get invented? What was the impetus for creating this? And why and how did they get so popular? This goes on and on and on. There's not a single episode of that show that we said, oh, we're going to skip this one and we're not interested. Because even if you weren't really interested, it's still fascinating because they're all brands we're familiar with. So it's like, oh, I didn't realize, you know, the whole thing between Goodyear and Firestone. I never knew anything about that. And there's some brutal betrayals. You know, the whole IBM Xerox thing I kind of knew, but not to the level of depth they go into. And I much prefer that to normal television shows at this point in my life. I enjoy a little escapism now and then. Primarily, I like the absurdity of South Park and, you know, outrageous humor. And I enjoy movies. I was interested in the Tron Ares movie, but a lot of people are saying it's not very good. So I don't think we're going to see it in the theater. I think we'll save our money and wait till we can stream it. But needless to say, I do enjoy those kind of things. But overall, I'd much rather watch a documentary. You know, when you learn how Harry Truman became president, he never wanted to be the president. He never asked. He wasn't a political guy. And he kind of became a political guy. Even for the guy that hired him, the guy was shady as all get out. But Harry Truman didn't care. Harry Truman was honest and true, even if the guy that hired him was shady. And then they're like, hey, could you be vice president? And he's like, I don't want to be vice president. Well, the two people running we don't like. And we don't like you either, but we like you better than them. Woo! That was something to write home to mom about. And he becomes vice president, and he's not vice president for 80 days before, who was it? Roosevelt died in office. And now, by default, just as your term began, you are now the president of the United States. Holy cow. This guy did not seek power. And that history is fascinating to me. Never once did that power ever go to his head. He never once, he had to make some tough decisions. One of the early decisions he had to make was whether or not to drop the bomb to end World War II. Germany had surrendered, but Japan was still fighting. And Roosevelt had been hemming and hawing on it. And Truman's like, let's do it. Dropped the first one, said, you going to surrender? They said no. A couple days later, dropped the second one, said, we got another one waiting. Okay. White flag, we give up. I appreciate that. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but it needed to be done. And it had, ultimately ended the war and probably prevented a lot more deaths over a longer period of time. Although not a pleasant ending. Unfortunately, it was one of those things where what choice did we have? So in any event, that history is just something I love that so much because it's all true. And I love the explanation of how it led to be. I find it quite inspiring. I don't do it for the knowledge, I do it for inspiration. That's my interest. How did this person go from being nobody, a farm boy, to becoming president of the United States? How did that happen? Some people are born into it. Michael Douglas is an actor because his father, Kirk Douglas, was an actor. But if without Kirk Douglas being an actor, would Michael Douglas ever become an actor? Would Nicolas Cage ever become an actor if his family, the Coppola family, Francis Ford Coppola, if they weren't in Hollywood to give him a foot in the door, would he have done it on his own? That's why he changed his name to Nick Cage, was to figure out if he could, not use his name, basically, to earn what he got. But nepotism is kind of an unfair playing field because you're born into a certain family that you have certain things the rest of us don't have, opportunities and great rewards that, look at J.J. Watt playing football. He's got two brothers that also play football in the NFL. The NFL is not easy to get into. So to have three brothers from the same, obviously from the same family, playing football, there's J.J. Watt, T.J. Watt, and I think of the Wyatt, I can't remember, all play for the NFL. Clearly, it's because you know somebody. I mean, you got to be talented, but there's plenty of talented people that the NFL doesn't know about. So learning about this stuff helps explain it. Like, oh, I see how they did it now. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that makes sense. Or sometimes it's just circumstances like the war. Gillette had nothing to do with that. It just happened. And as he marched on preaching about this, evangelizing about his razor, he could have done that another 10 years. He was never going to give up. I had no idea. Mark Baggett with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mark. Planet Cryo says, we started watching Resident Alien. I love the humor in it. Maybe that is what I am since I'm from the Planet Cryos. I'm a fan of Alan Tudyk. I'm not a fan of Resident Alien. But Alan Tudyk did like a Kickstarter funded series called Con Man. And he's a man who goes to conventions, science fiction conventions. And he goes to science fiction conventions because he played a character on a show that looks a lot like Firefly with Nathan Fillion, but it's not Firefly. And he's typecast as this sci-fi guy, and he doesn't want to do sci-fi. He wants to do something else. But he'll go to the conventions to make some money and sign some autographs, and comedy ensues. And I guess Alan wrote a lot of this himself. And each episode's about 10 minutes long. He did 2 seasons. And I really enjoyed it. I think there was one episode I didn't like, but even then they're only 10 minutes long. So how bad can it be? Almost everything Alan Tudyk has done, I like. I just, for whatever reason, Resident Alien never appealed to me. The best thing, my introduction to Alan Tudyk, and I still, when I think of Alan, I always think of A Knight's Tale with Mark Addy and Heath Ledger. And Paul, what's his name? He's been in Star Wars, he's in WandaVision. Paul, oh man. Now, this is going to kill me. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Paul Bettany. Also, Rufus Sewell is in A Knight's Tale as well. And Alan Tudyk, of course, which is how we got here. And the music in it, and just everything about that movie is fantastic. It's one of the last things Heath Ledger did. I think, well, of course, Joker was the last thing he did. But wow, what a fantastic movie that was never really given, I feel, the proper respect for what it introduced, which was just a very weird twist on medieval times and jousting that added a lot of humor and levity with modern rock music, which is such a weird thing to blend in, and it works for me. It just works. I don't know how to explain it. If you've not seen A Knight's Tale, highly recommended. Some of Alan Tudyk's best work. Jim Kenney said it only took 85 years, but we now have gas masks that will seal on beards. Yeah, Frank Jimmy's mentioned Paul Bettany. That's the name I was looking for. Thanks, Frank. Also known as Jarvis. Was he Jarvis? Who are we talking about? When I think of Jarvis, I think of Robert Downey Jr. Why is my keyboard not working? Hello? Turn it off and back on again. Oh, Paul Bettany was the voice of Jarvis. But David Kaye was also the voice of Jarvis. Paul Bettany did the Avengers, and David Kaye did Avengers Assemble. I didn't realize that. Interesting. Paul Bettany does not have a distinctive voice. I don't recognize. If I hear Paul Bettany talking, I can't tell who that is. If I hear, Alan Rickman talking, I know exactly. If I hear Jeff Goldblum talking, I know exactly. If I hear Christopher Walken talking, I know that's Christopher Walken. There's nothing about Paul Bettany's voice that isn't anything to my ears other than a generic voice. So I would have never picked that out. All right, guys, with that, we've drifted quite a ways, but I just want to say thank you for hanging out today. I'm sorry I didn't have any projects or gadgets to show you today. The industry has really been slowing down. The economy has been slowing down. However, because of the end of Windows 10, I am getting some systems in that will need to be upgraded. And, the end of Windows 10 is really still 12 months away. These clients don't want to prolong it. They're just like, look, we got to do it anyway. It's not been a good time up until now. This is our slow period where it doesn't impact our business. I said, whenever you're ready, let's do it. In the meantime, you've got another 12 months. If there's if now is not a good time, there's no rush. We'll just ask for those free extended security updates and you're good. But we're just procrastinating. So if you anticipate that there's going to be a better time in the near future, I'm happy to accommodate. They're like, no, this is the best time. Great, bring it on. And so both clients reached out to me at the same time. Actually, I've had about 4 or 5 clients, but 3 of them have not followed up. And that's okay. They will when they're ready. I'm not going to harass them. When they're ready, they'll reach out. And we have a couple of Corsair 200Rs, actually. Completely different clients. But, you know, I was building all these business class machines and 200Rs universally. And they're of varying ages. One of the machines coming in for repair is quite fascinating in that I only recently built it. And it's not old and it doesn't need Windows 11. The problem with it is the solid state drive, the NVMe drive I put in there, doesn't seem to hold any data. It's all relatively brand new, barely used. And I initially thought somebody must have erased it. So I connected to it remotely using a nano KVM, and I did the reinstall of Windows 11. It booted fine. I said, well, that's an easy thing. And then I went to restart it after updates, or actually during updates, it switched off on me for some reason. And then when it restarted, it said there's no operating system on the disk. So again, I booted from Windows 11 and I look at the NVMe drive that I just literally formatted, partitioned, and put Windows 11 on, and it says there's no partition on it. I said, I need to see that in my office. I need it here. And they said, well, it's not important. We'll get around to it. That was like 4 months ago. If they follow through, that could be Sunday show. So I hope you'll tune in on Sunday. And better yet, I hope I'm going to have that computer here like they said, because this is puzzling to me. I've never, ever seen this problem, let alone on a computer that I just built a year ago. That is so weird. I got to see this with my own eyes. You know, did somebody get in there and short circuit something? Is there a screw flopping around in there that short circuited? Do we have a drive that's failing? And if so, why is it sometimes working? And what's causing it to be completely erased? None of this makes any sense. Did the drive get unseated from the socket at some point in the shipping back and forth? It's not in there right, and so it's kind of partially making a connection. I don't know, but I am dying to find out. And we will share that entire discovery process. We'll replicate the symptom. We're going to do that all just like we always do, live, unscripted, and unrehearsed, to show you what happens when you're a technician. Customer calls you out with a problem that doesn't make any sense. We have to experience and replicate the problem and then start to look at what the causes are and figure it out. And to me, when you edit a video out of all of that process, the logic and the reasoning that goes into trying things that don't work, that leads you to try other things you otherwise would not have thought of, then the video may be entertaining as an edited, well, we did this and we did this, but without really an explanation of why they made that decision. It's not very educational. It's just entertainment. I like to make videos that are educational so you see the logic and the reasoning behind those decisions and how long this really takes. Because I can take a 3-day project and edit down to a 3-minute video. That's not very realistic in real life. It's almost like lying to you. But then on the other hand, you've got viewers that go, you spend all this time on what could have been a 3-minute video. Well, you know that now. That's the point. I damn near had him. Was this misted by that much? I think that little mosquito wants to die. Yeah, he better hide. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support and generosity. Welcome into all of our new members today. Wow, we got a bunch of new members. And I hope you enjoy the members-only benefits. As a reminder, again, if you want to email us, I'm going to put our email address up on the screen one more time here. We love hearing from you guys. And if we can help you with anything, feel free to ask. If you want to share an experience with your computer or software that you've had, let us know. And we love hearing from real users for good and bad experiences that have in real life versus a reviewer's opinion who doesn't oftentimes spend their own money or have anything riding on the line if that thing stops working that they're reviewing. You know what I mean? Like there's no accountability in it. So if you've purchased something and had a good or bad experience or had a warranty return, like we're talking about with Nemo, and that was positive and they were responsive and quick? Or what if it was bad? And you know, that information is very helpful to the community to hear from real community members and their real experiences, because I think the world needs more reality. Everybody's living in a bubble. This is the only bubble that matters. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thanks to Mara, of course. She did a great job on the thumbnail, as always. Thanks to all of our members and all of the generosity from the members today. And thank you for all the viewers watching and interacting with us. It's just not the same show without you here. So we hope to see you on Sunday. We hope you join us then. And I hope that customer gets me that computer. Otherwise, I don't know. That might be another me standing behind a desk talking video, which I would prefer to actually be doing some work. I think you would prefer that too. But thank you for hanging out. I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Hope you have a great, happy, safe, joyful weekend. And I look forward to seeing you on Sunday, 1 o'clock as always. Until then, bye for now.